Tipp today in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tipp Today, 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number. It won't cost you if you'd like to make a call to us. Leanne is producing. Coming up on the show today, we'll be hearing from Cllr Jim Ryan in just a few moments. He believes more needs to be done to celebrate the birthplace of the GAA. Should Ireland play Israel in the Nations League? We'll be hearing from Zoe Lawlor from the Irish Palestine Solidarity Campaign. Councillor Browne will join us. We'll be hearing from Deputy Mattie McGrath live in studio. We have our legal slot, and we will discuss the whole business of the SNAs that has been so controversial over the last few days. We'll be hearing from Mark Darmody on that. So all of that and more on the way. You can text to WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tippfm.com. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of your newspapers. The Irish Daily Mail, and they're leading with the story that the government's sustainable spending plan includes an additional €12 billion beyond the limit recommended by public expenditure officials. That's according to the Daily Mail's lead story today. The Irish Times, and they're leading with the story that European leaders will mark the 4th anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine by reaffirming their political and financial backing of Kyiv as a top EU official in Brussels played down the prospects of a peace deal in the near future. Also on the Times today, and right across the newspapers, in fact, the whole business of Mandelson is now making headlines. The turmoil in Britain's establishment over the release of the files of the US child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein has deepened after the former UK cabinet member Peter Mandelson was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. So it's Andy to Mandy, as they say. Also reading on the Times today that Gardaí believe the driver who killed Mia Lily Keogh O'Keefe, the 16-year-old, and her pet dog in a hit and run in County Meath at the weekend was a learner driver who was in the car unaccompanied. The Irish Independent, and the lead story on the Independent today, an interesting one indeed, from Kieran Moran, who's telling us that grant applications in the names of dead farmers, second-hand equipment being passed off as new, and non-existent projects are just some of the tactics being used to defraud taxpayers. The Department of Agriculture has claimed its anti-fraud unit has compiled a list of red flags across schemes used by farmers to get funding, with its hardening line driven by rising vigilance at an EU level over the multi-billion euro farm payment system. The Irish Examiner, and the main story on the Examiner today, a tracking device was found attached to the exhaust pipe of a woman's car after she was advised by Gardaí to bring it to a mechanic as she was being stalked by her ex-boyfriend. Also on the Examiner today, a Canadian man who competed in Ironman competitions across the globe drowned at an event in Youghal in County Cork in 2023 after he hit his head off something very solid, according to an inquest. And also an interesting story on the front of the Examiner today. Irish drug dealers were kept under surveillance across 3 countries in Europe as they sourced drugs and travelled back home, where they were arrested by elite Garda units. So that's a look at what's making headlines today. If you'd like to make comment on any of that, once again, the text and WhatsApp is 083 311 3311. Now, Thurles, the birthplace of the Gaelic Athletic Association, more needs to be done to celebrate the history of the organisation and to create a visitor experience. That's according to Cllr Jim Ryan, who joins me now. Good morning to you, Jim.
Good morning, Fran.
Good to talk to you today. You suggested that if the GAA had been founded in Cork or Kerry, Jim, it would have been put to much better use.
Yes, I believe that, Fran. I said it at our recent county council meeting that if the GAA was founded in the likes of Cllr near Tralee or Westport or Dublin or Cork, at this stage you'd see interpretive centres, cultural centres, GAA trails, museums built and millions spent on it. Yet in Thurles we don't even have a sign up, and it's sinful in my eyes. There's a golden opportunity there that we're not grasping. And, we had a recent meeting with the GA, I suppose top-notch, who came down to an SPC meeting recently, and I raised the issue with them at the meeting, and they seemed very positive that there should be a partnership there between the County Council and the GA to try and highlight the fact that the GA was founded in Thurles and make more use of it. And, I think it's something that should have been done years ago. Whether it'll happen, I don't know. It should happen in my eyes, and there's an opportunity there that we're just not grasping. And, Thurles is the home of the GA. It's where the GA was founded back in 1884. Hayes Hotel is still there. The room that the GA was founded in is still there. And as I said, we haven't even got a sign around Thurles to say that the GA was founded here. And you drive around Ireland and you see various tourism destinations. I holiday a lot in Ireland, and I just see the amount of money that has been spent on interpretive centres, on museums, on trails, etc. And when it comes to Thurles and the GA, which is worldwide, recognition, and millions of people worldwide, love the GA, would love to know more about it. And as I said, we have the town, the home of hurling, where it's founded, and absolutely nothing for anyone to come and see or do in relation to the GA.
Not quite nothing. I mean, Larne Park is still there, isn't it, Jim?
Friend, it's hardly ever open, it's hardly ever visited, it's in the wrong location. It should be in Semple Stadium. There should be tours of Semple Stadium. Buses should be coming in, they should be visiting the likes of Hayes Hotel where the GA was founded. They should go to the museum in Semple Stadium. They should be entitled or allowed to do a tour of Semple Stadium, obviously pay for it. And it'd be of huge benefit to the people at Thurles to bring in tourism and to bring in tourists from foreign countries into Thurles who at the moment obviously go to Cashel because that's where all the tourism buses go to. But can you imagine if we got the money in and constructed or created a GA tourism trail for Thurles with all this on offer? I think there'll be huge uptake in relation to it, and there just doesn't seem to be anybody interested in grasping it.
And what about that? Why is that the case? Why is there not an appetite to push this further?
I just do not know, because as I said, I holiday so much in Ireland and I see so many wonderful facilities around the country, and here we are. And if you ask anyone, what's the biggest tradition or culture in Ireland, and everybody will tell you it's the GAA. Where it's founded in Thurles.
I think you're right. I see in towns, and like yourself, I do a lot of travelling, and I see them celebrating a lot less than the founding of the GAA, if you know what I mean, Jim.
Absolutely, yeah. And money spent on it, and people taking a keen interest in it, and they promote it, and it brings people, visitors, into those areas. And as I said, I just cannot understand it, how something as important as the GAA, something that every parish and every village and town and city in Ireland has teams, has people volunteering. It's something that people hold with great pride. And as I said, it's well known internationally. And here we are, the home of hurling. Whether it's the GAA, whether it's the local authority, whether it's the tourism bodies are lacking, have no interest in it. I just cannot understand why we have absolutely
was Lorna Park not dipping the toe in the water of this? And, people didn't exactly flock there, I suppose, Jim. Is that an indication of something?
It's a great museum, and I encourage anyone to visit it. But unfortunately, it's just not open, in the correct hours. When there's matches on, it's not open. I just think if you go to Croke Park, the GA Museum is in Croke Park. It's on the music stand, and I think we should be doing that with Semple Stadium. I think the museum should be moved to Semple Stadium. It could give her a wider exposure when matches are on. And as I said, I think a GA trail should be created where tourists can come in, or even locals come visit Hayes Hotel where the GA was founded. Go to the museum, maybe a GA shop, and have a tour around Semple Stadium, and then stay in the town and have lunch, and then move on to the next destination. It just beggars belief that there's an opportunity there for tourism, and we're all talking about creating tours and bringing tourists in from America and from Europe or far beyond. But everybody knows about the GA, and there's a huge interest in the GA, particularly in America. And if we created some sort of a tourist package or a tourist destination where to come to Thurles, visit where the GA was founded, there's a great interpretive centre, cultural centre, GA trail. You can play on the famous Semple Stadium pitch or walk around it. I think there's an opportunity there, and why nobody has grasped it at this stage, I just don't know.
But you see, that's what's concerning me, why nobody has I presume there's been some investigation into the possibility of this over the years, Jim, because it seems kind of blatantly obvious.
I'm not sure, and I suppose what really rubs the salt into the wound is back in 2013, when Thurles was awarded a very prestigious European Town of Sport, and not many towns have that award, and again, there's not even a sign up for that either. So I don't know what it is, why it seems to be ignored. There's it's not as if we have to try and locate or research something in Thurles. It's so well known. We all know the GAA was founded in Thurles. It's there. It's on our doorstep. It just needs somebody to take the initiative, get the funding from the government, and create some sort of a GAA trail. We need it badly for tourism figures here in Thurles. And as I said at the start of my interview here this morning, if this was Killarney or Tralee or Westport or Dublin or Cork, millions would be spent on it by now. Yeah, I just can't understand why we're not doing it.
What support did you get at the municipal meeting?
Well, I was widely supported, and at the SPC meeting it was widely supported, and I was supported by the Tipperary County Board and the GAA officials that were there at the meeting, and I encouraged the County Council to form that partnership now with the GAA, see where this can go. If it means that we have to go and get funding ourselves, I think we should do it. And I'd just be very disappointed now at this stage if people didn't see the potential in this and just swept it under the carpet and ignored it again. We just can't keep going. Like there's huge amounts of money being spent on the Blue Way and Doctorg and the Rock of Cashel and the GAA in Thurles. I can't believe that there's not a penny being spent on it. It just beggars belief, to be honest with you.
A couple of listeners on but making kind of more or less the same point and saying that why is Jim, and I presume they mean the other councils as well, only talking about this now? It should have been done years ago, and somebody making the point that this is up to the local authority to push this, Jim.
Well, we'll have to counteract that by saying that in the old town council days, this issue was raised by all the councillors. Then that's going back, 10, 15, 20 years ago. This has been raised previously. We looked to have a meeting with the GAA headquarters. They never came back with a response to meet with us, but it was just, as I said, the SPC, the culture SPC that I'm on, the GAA were invited to it, they attended, they outlined in their presentation the potential of the GAA and how well known it is internationally, and I just raised the issue that Thurles has been completely neglected and where the GAA was founded, and as I said, I got widespread support in relation to it. It was my first opportunity to have that say with the GAA headquarters team. They're at the meeting, and hopefully now something will come of it. And as I said, at the first opportunity I got at the next county council meeting, I raised the issue. So we need to push this. There needs to be a stronger emphasis on this. The money is there from the government before the money runs out, and I think there is the emphasis, as your listeners have correctly said, on the local authority, on the various tourism bodies, and on the GAA to come together and formulate something, send it into the government and seek funding for it. It's the very least we should be doing, and I just think people saying that we've Lorna Park and that should be enough. No, it's not enough. We're not making use of it. We're not making use of Central Stadium. I spoke since I was on about this previously. Like people from America have contacted me and have said that they would love to bring people to Thurles, but at the moment they can't because there's nothing for them to bring to in Thurles. And this is something that if it was available, they would bring them to Thurles. So
was separating the merchandise shop from Lorna Park, was that a mistake, do you think?
Well, it was, of course. Yeah, that was ideal. It was a great location. But look, these are commercial decisions. But I look at Croke Park, I go out again, Sport in Tipperary, and you see the GAA shop, you see the museum, and you have Croke Park. You can do tours of Croke Park. And we don't have the same as Central Stadium, the second biggest stadium and the most famous stadium outside of Croke Park. Why aren't we doing it? I think we need to place greater pressure and emphasis on the relevant bodies to ensure this happens. And I will pursue it. I think that we should be doing it, and it's now that the GAA headquarters team are aware of the fact that we are looking for it in Thurles, hopefully something will come of it.
All right. Jim, thanks for talking to us today.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that chance. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Jim. It's Councillor Jim Ryan speaking to us now. What do you think about that? It's blatantly obvious when you hear the argument that, the importance of Thurles in the history of the GAA, it should be acknowledged. And in fairness to Jim Ryan, I agree with him. If this was anywhere else, I think they'd be making a huge, big deal about that. Anyway, how do you feel about that? 083 311 3311.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
The Ireland Palestine Solidarity Campaign recently released a press release on behalf of Jews for Palestine Ireland, calling on the Football Association of Ireland to boycott the upcoming matches against Israel. I'm joined now by the chair of the Ireland Palestine Solidarity Campaign, Zoe Lawlor. Good morning to you, Zoe.
Good morning.
And thanks very much indeed for coming on with us today. First of all, will you tell us about the Jews for Palestine group?
Yeah, sure. They're our colleagues and our allies. They're a group of Jewish people in Ireland who are part of the movement in solidarity with the Palestinian people.
And your own solidarity campaign then, again, will you just give us a little bit of background there?
Yeah, sure. So we're an all-Ireland organisation. We've more than 34 branches around the country, and we organise, solidarity events, demonstrations, film screenings, talks. We've a speaking tour on at the moment with a Palestinian from a citizen of Israel, speaking about what's going on with Palestinians there. And we obviously organise big demonstrations as well. We had a huge one in Dublin on Saturday, at which actually we had a speaker, Jacob Wolf, from Jews for Palestine Ireland.
So tell us about your thoughts, and when I say you, the campaign and Jews for Palestine Ireland as well. Tell us about your thoughts on the games and what do you think should happen then?
Yeah, well, we support the Palestinian call for a sporting, cultural, academic and consumer boycott of Israel. And like we've been calling for this for years, Israel played in Ireland in 2005 in a World Cup qualifier, and we had a big demonstration at Lansdowne Road, as it was then. So obviously we think the FAI should, to start with, UEFA should expel Israel. And it's a shame on UEFA and FIFA that they have put national sporting governing bodies in the position that they have by not fulfilling their own or living up to their own statutes and rules and expelling Israel, but failing that they haven't. We would want the FAI and the Irish team not to play these fixtures, not to fulfil them.
It's interesting, Zoe, that last year the FAI voted to submit a motion to UEFA to ban Israel from European competitions, but still they're going ahead with these games. Yeah,
I mean, I guess that they are saying that they brought the motion to UEFA, and it was like a majority, over 93%, I think, of members of the FAI Congress supported the motion. They brought that to UEFA, and I suppose they're saying now it's in the hands of UEFA. But we would say that because UEFA is failing, to uphold its own rules, then the FAI is also under no obligation to follow rules, when UEFA won't uphold its own ones. So maybe they could have another EGM. I don't know how their structures work, but it's clear from that vote that that's representative of football in Ireland, and they want Israel expelled from UEFA.
There's precedent here, of course, and I suppose Russia being banned from both the FIFA World Cup and the Olympics as well, and certainly where South Africa was concerned too. So there is precedent.
Absolutely there is. And there's precedent in Ireland. Ireland was the first country to boycott South African apartheid. And, we're all very proud of that. We look back and we talk about the Dunstores strikers. They're seen as heroes in Ireland.
And the women from Dunstores particularly,
absolutely, especially, Mary Manning, Karen Gearan are all friends of ours. They've spoken at our demonstrations, and they're all great people. Now, they had a difficult time at the time, and, obviously they're lauded now, but we led the way then, and I don't see why we couldn't lead the way again, and set a great example for people in Ireland that is reflective of the will of the majority of people here who do support sanctions on Israel for its genocidal crimes against Palestinians.
Well, we stood up, I suppose, where Eurovision is concerned, for example.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm involved in that because I do the cultural and sporting work for IPSC. So have been involved in the Eurovision campaign since 2019 when it was in Israel, and it was absolutely fantastic to see RTE finally, deciding not to participate in Eurovision, and people are very proud of that, and it is something to be proud of, and it would be amazing to see the FAI follow suit and, leave this legacy of doing the right thing and standing up for what's right. And, Israel is in breach of UEFA and FIFA rules by having teams in illegal Israeli settlements. And the International Court of Justice has said that these settlements and the apartheid system must be dismantled, and there's an obligation on states, organisations, corporations, etc., not to do anything to aid these illegal settlements, which are, causing ethnic cleansing and extreme oppression of Palestinians. So, there's an obligation also on organisations such as sporting bodies to not assist in the displacement of Palestinians.
Can I put the alternative to you, Zoe, that Israeli players and the national team represent their country in sport, not the policies of their government, and by playing the upcoming games, the FAI could reinforce a principle that sport, could transcend politics, I suppose, and create talk and dialogue and maintain fairness to the athletes as well. I guess that would be the argument that would be put to you. What would you say to that?
Well, I don't believe that sport transcends politics. I mean, we saw Gianni Infantino as, the sham Trump Board of Peace colonisation plan for Gaza last week. So the notion that sport and politics don't mix, or that sport can rise above it, I don't think is real. We don't operate in silos. Sport is part of our lives. Politics are part of our lives. Everything is political. The Israeli national team represents the Israeli state. That state is currently under investigation for genocide. Its prime minister is wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes. They have murdered at least 100,000 Palestinians in Gaza. They are stealing more and more of the West Bank every day. They have incarcerated thousands of people, and they have murdered at least 1,000 Palestinian athletes just since October 2023, including more than 400 football players. So, building bridges with the Israeli state through sport or culture is not a non-runner. They literally do not care what people say or think about them until there's some kind of sanction. And the reason that we're at this horror state now for Palestinians is because Israel has operated with impunity and in every stage since it's begun its crimes against Palestinians, and especially throughout this genocide. We have seen no sanctions on them at all. So this would be some way of putting a sanction and saying, no, you don't get to sports wash your crimes and behave as if you're a normal state on the world stage. We won't accept that, and we won't participate in that.
I was looking at some of your own background. You've been supporting Palestine and Palestinians for a long time at this point, Zoe.
Absolutely, and I was in Gaza a few years ago. I was lucky enough to go there, and it was a beautiful, lovely place, full of warmth and fun and culture. And we met a football academy, Al Hilal, while we were there, and then we brought children from their youth academy to Ireland in 2016 and 2017, and they played football all around the country against young kids in Ireland, and they went to League of Ireland games. They met the president on both occasions, and one of the 10 of their players, of their children, have been murdered in this genocide. And one of the kids who came to Ireland, Mohammed Khalifa, he was 20 when he was killed, but I knew him as a teen. He was in Ireland, and he was killed with 7 members of his family. So it's very real. This is not abstract. These are real people, with real lives. I guess once you've been to Palestine and seen what goes on there and what's being done to the people, you kind of have to do something about it, to act on your conscience and try to do everything you can to.
And I'd love to know, because you saw what's happening on the ground there are those who would, argue that support for Palestinian rights equates to a tacit sort of endorsement of Hamas. In other words, given how that group is so deeply rooted in Palestinian society. What do you say when that point is made, Zoe?
Well, I don't think it's a serious argument, honestly. When people are oppressed, people of conscience want to stand with them. We went to Palestine as a civil society group. I went with a group of friends, and then we formed into Gaza Action Ireland. I also visited the West Bank myself when I was allowed twice, and saw what's going on there. I had no interaction with any political factions or any organisations like that. I just met people, civil society groups, rights groups. So I don't think that's a serious argument, to be honest.
Because we often discuss it here on the programme, I'd love your opinion of America and what America is or is not doing, in fact, where Israel is concerned, because they have the, if you forgive me saying so, the trump card to a large extent, haven't they?
Absolutely. I mean, the US has funded, armed, enabled and given political cover for this genocide and for all Israel's decades of crimes against Palestinians. They're the biggest recipient of US aid. I don't know how much weaponry has been given to Israel. And again, a lot of our complicity comes through the use of Shannon Airport by the US military. And now we have this Board of Peace, which is just a dystopian nightmare. I can't even get my head around how horrendous it is, what they're planning for the Palestinians in Gaza, and it really cannot be allowed. So, the US is an active partner in genocide, I would say.
What do you think is going to happen where the games are concerned? What's your instinct on this?
I hope that the FAI will stand up and not play. They may well play, and the games will be held, and we will campaign hard against that. And if there's a match in Ireland, we would obviously protest outside that and campaign around it. I don't think that the matches will be played outside of so-called neutral venues, to be honest, if they go ahead. But I really hope that we don't get to that point. I really hope that the FAI decides, to do the right thing and not to play.
And the Irish government stance on this, I know it was argued in the Dáil chamber as well. What are you making of that? Do you think they should take a more hardline stance on it?
Absolutely. Well, they said that the RTE boycott of the Eurovision was the right thing to do, so I don't see how this is different. And, with the Irish government, they're always telling us how much they're doing for Palestine, but to be honest, there's nothing concrete. We're still waiting after over 8 years for the Occupied Territories Bill, which is the bare minimum we should be doing to uphold our obligations under international law. So I think the government should come out and say we would support the FAI. They can't tell them what to do, but we would support the FAI if they decided not to play these games. And that might make the situation easier for the FAI to make that decision, knowing the support was there.
And it's very interesting what the Jews for Palestine are saying. They're saying that critique of Israel is not anti-Semitism, and it's very, very important to make that point, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, I see it all the time. So this group, Jews for Palestine Ireland, their voice is not really heard very often in our mainstream media. And
why is that, Zoe?
Millions of Jewish people. I don't know. I really don't. There are millions of Jewish people all over the world in this movement, and there's, excuse me, I've often heard people say they find it offensive to think that they would support genocide just by virtue of the fact that they're Jewish. Yeah. That's deeply offensive. So I don't know why. I think it's a real shame that, we often see, our colleagues wanting to get op-eds into the papers saying, we're part of this movement, we stand with Palestinians. They really find it difficult to get their voices heard.
And to people listening this morning who might feel very strongly about this, what advice would you give them, Zoe?
Well, join a local solidarity group. support Palestine, keep lobbying our government, to make sure that they enact the Occupied Territories Bill and all the other legislation that they have, and put sanctions on Israel. Keep speaking out for Palestine, especially now in this supposed ceasefire, which isn't real. But, it's very much gone off the news, even though people are being killed every day in Gaza and children are dying because they can't get medical treatment. Uphold Palestinian culture and just do everything you can to stand against apartheid and oppression.
Good to talk to you today. Interesting conversation. Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
Bye-bye.
That is Zoe Lawlor there, who's chair of the Ireland Palestine Solidarity Campaign. How do you feel about that? 1800 938 007. James in New Inn says, are lobbyists going to try to stop every event that any country involved in war are involved in? Keep politics out of sports, says James to us today. Somebody else saying, I'm all for the Palestinian people having their land, but Hamas is a major factor for me, and these people are Muslims and they treat women and girls in an appalling fashion. And what is being said and done about this? We must also stand with the Jewish people against Zionist zealots, it says here. Going back to my conversation with Jim Ryan. Jim is a member of Cllr Memorial Committee, who have been promoting Semple Stadium for 26 years. The county councillors were aware, but no interest, with links to St Mary's International Garden of Remembrance, the last resting place of the great man Tom Semple. Finnan Road, where he lived, Johnny Worth, chairman of the founder indeed of the Memorial Committee there, and we spoke to Johnny several times in the past, so maybe we could have a chat with him again over the next couple of days. Brendan says Jim Ryan perfectly right and correct in everything he said as regards the GAA in Thurles.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1800 938 007.
Now, as you heard in our news bulletins, Councillor Browne released a statement this week welcoming significant assurances from the HSE regarding the future of Our Lady's Hospital in Cashel and the wider provision of elderly care services in the town. And Liam joins me now. Good morning to you, Liam.
Morning, fine, and morning to the listeners.
And good to talk to you. You're welcoming what you describe as a positive update on the future of elderly care services in Cashel. But surely, Liam, at best this is a stopgap, and the substantive issue has to be the building of what we all want, that purpose-built elderly care unit.
Absolutely, Fran, you're dead right. I'm welcoming what I did get, but not happy overall with what I haven't seen yet, and I won't be happy until I see it built and people in it. Look, Fran, you know yourself that this has been a long-running sore, I suppose, in Cashel. It's certainly there's something I've been chasing up since before I was ever elected. I remember myself and yourself sitting in a meeting in Sparfield back in 2022, I think, when this was being discussed. Look, the issue with the community nursing unit is that we still don't know where it's going to go. We still don't even know where it's going to go. Imagine that, when it was supposed to have been built by now. We still don't even have a location. But the problem was when the patients from our St Patrick's were moved to Our Ladies in 2020 during COVID, they were told that they would have to be out of there by 2023. In 2023, they were told they get one more chance to have a licence extended out to 2026 in June. But I spent 4 or 5 months at the back end of last year and at the start of this year trying to find out what was going to happen in June, because it's obvious there's not going to be a CNU unit built by June. I said at this stage we'll be looking to even know where it's going to go. So there was significant, I suppose, upset among staff and patients families in Our Ladies that they didn't know what was going to happen. So, I worked with a couple of, I suppose, senior Oireachtas members that I deal with on a regular basis to try and tie the HSE down to get an answer off them. And we finally did last week, and that was that the HICWA were going through the licensing, the relicensing process. They said in 2023 they weren't going to extend it again, but they said that, the likelihood is that there's not going to be any issue with the licence, and it will be extended again, which will give a bit of space once again for this community nursing unit to be built.
But I mean, they couldn't have done anything else really, because where would the people have gone, Liam?
Well, you see, that was the big fear, and always has been the big fear of myself, and I suppose of other people. The reality, Fran, is that I think the HSE are playing around with people building these community nursing units. They're not building enough of them, as far as I'm concerned, and the ones they are building, they're almost letting one set of patients compete with another, or one hospital area compete with another. There's obviously, as we know, community nursing units have been built in Clonmel, and it's almost ready to have patients going to it. The big fear in Cashel, and let's be honest about it, because it happened in Cashel 30 years ago when services moved from Our Ladies into South Tipperary Hospital, and we were left without service in Cashel, was that the elderly care services would go the same way. That, we were told at the end of June that the licence had run out, the equal licence had run out in Our Ladies. We had to move the patients because it was an unlicensed facility. The only place we could move them to at the time would be Clonmel. And once they went to Clonmel, what would happen is St. Patrick's Our Ladies would close down, and that would be the end of elderly care service in Cashel. That was the fear. That's what we thought was going to happen. That's why I was pushing constantly to make them give us an answer to say that's not going to happen. And I'm hoping that this answer that we've got so far this week is some assurance that it won't happen.
And they say, the HSE, they say they're committed to the provision of that new unit in Cashel. And they say it's included in the HSE capital plan. What does that mean exactly? Does that mean that money is ring-fenced? And if so, do we know how much money?
Well, unfortunately, I know it doesn't. That's kind of a ball of smoke, really, to be quite honest. There's an awful lot of things included in the capital plan, but as you know yourself, until the money has actually been allocated towards it, and no money has been allocated towards it just yet, because proper and in proper order, who's going to allocate money to something where you don't even know where it's going to stand? So what they've said is they've committed to it. They've looked out over the next 5 years and put together a capital plan, because obviously you've got to spend that amount of, go out that far ahead when you're planning major investment, and said, look, if they get everything else right, if they find a location, if they get planning, if they get, the staff, and they think we can do it in a certain area, then the money will be released. So at the moment it's only on paper, but there is work being done as into looking at a location. And I suppose there's a significant amount of money after being spent already looking for locations, which unfortunately we knew that weren't going to be used, which is another bugbear of mine. And we've been saying to them that they shouldn't have wasted that money. And I will say again, Fran, on the radio here this morning, I still think that the best place for that unit is Our Ladies Hospital. I think that's where it should be, and I think they should stop looking at any new locations for a community nursing unit. At the very best, Fran, they should be looking for a second location, because I think we've got to acknowledge that we are an ageing population. More and more people are getting older. Myself and yourselves aren't too far away from it. I'd like to think, that in a not too significant length of time, that we may be looking for those services as well. So instead of saying we're looking for one and we'll put in a stopgap, as you're saying, these are constant stopgaps. Let's start planning properly for the population that we have, and probably put in 2 or 3 or 4 more of these units in Tipperary, and not just go around looking for a field for one of them.
For what it's worth, Liam, I agree with you that I think it should be at Our Ladies Hospital for sure. But why wouldn't it be there? I mean, what am I missing here? Is it a lack of parking? Is it a lack of what is it?
I'm going to tell you that some of the stuff that I've been told is completely contradictory. I've been in Our Ladies Hospital a few times, and I've spoken to some of the staff members there and asked them what reason were they given for it not being considered as the community nursing unit. The first one I was given was it wasn't on a single floor, so you won't have lifts and stuff. But then I get told that the design for any new one is going to be multi-storey, so that goes out the window. The second one I get told, Fran, is and anybody who knows Our Ladies Hospital, you'll know it as well as I do. It does have open wards, and there's 4 beds to a ward. And HICWA are saying that their best practice is to have single rooms per patient. But that's only a construction thing. I mean, you could go in there and you could put up partition walls and divide up a large space into 2 or 3 smaller spaces with single areas. I don't know why they're not looking at it, Fran, because let's think about it for a minute. There'll be absolutely no planning issues with Our Ladies Hospital, because it is a hospital. You're just extended. Like no matter where you put any new facility, it's going to have to go through a planning process, which may people say, maybe it shouldn't be here, maybe it shouldn't be there, maybe have environmental concerns, maybe we've God knows how many other concerns with every single planning permission that you put in. None of that is there with Our Ladies Hospital.
Are you sure that is that not architecturally very important though? Is that not listed in some way?
Again, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you, Fran, and there's some people who disagree with me here. I'm getting a bit fed up of listening to listed buildings and not being able to touch them.
Yeah.
Because the reality is we have a huge problem in the centre of our towns, and I know there's a couple of people who'll be involved in heritage and culture will be banging their heads off a table listening to me here. We have old towns, we have old villages, which we want to regenerate, which we want to bring into the present society and get ready for the future. And yet we can't be told by them because someone says, well, I like the look of that shop front. I love the look of Our Lady's Hospital as well, but you can leave the facade and change the inside and then add an extension onto the side. I mean, are we going to wait for every single building to be as old as the Rock of Cashel before we realise that we need to maybe build a couple of new buildings and that's, the modern world...
Well, there was no problem knocking the nurses' accommodation there years ago. So
this is it, and we have a fine unit instead of it on the left-hand side. We also have some fine facilities as you go down the back to our super value.
Yeah.
But the reality is, Fran, Our Lady's Hospital is sitting right in the centre of Cashel. It has got loads of parking. It's got loads of space behind it. If the HSE are interested in buying a little bit of waste ground, there's plenty of room to extend. There's plenty of room on the site to extend if you never bought another piece of ground. It has fantastic staff, Fran, who are doing the exact same job that this unit is going to do in the future. Why, in the name of God, would you build a brand new unit either up in Palmer's Hill or 2 miles out the road in Golden, or God knows where you're going to build it, and then simply move all the staff that are doing the fantastic job in Our Lady's Hospital now, where everybody knows that the people in there are happy, the patients enjoy where they are, and simply go to all the trouble of moving it out the road, when really all we need to do is build an extension onto the back of Our Lady's Hospital, make a couple of things like the fire safety access in and out a little bit safer, make the lifts a bit wider so that people can be brought up and down the stairs. Just make it more fit for purpose, bring it up to date, but don't move it off the site that it's on.
Yeah.
And the other thing then, Fran, is if we move a community nursing unit somewhere away from Our Lady's Hospital, what are we going to be left with then? Another shell for 15, 20 years, waiting for something else to go in on the site. Doesn't make sense, Fran.
So, something I'm intrigued of, because you said you were working with local representatives on this. Why is it that a Kerry Fianna Fáil senator made representation on behalf of the residents there? How is that the case?
Well, you see, the thing is, Fran, and this is often said to independents when we come around election time, what influence can we have or what power can we have? One of the things that independents have is they have a lot of influence in the Shannon because we are the main electorate for senators. So I would work with senators from every single party, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, independent senators. And, while we mightn't be members of parties here, we can work all the parties at the Dáil and get stuff asked for and get stuff checked for. So I worked with Mark Daly. Mark is a fantastic senator. He's Carhillock of the Shannon. Really nice guy. Always there to help. So whenever I need something or...
But we have Tipperary senators. Did you try to work with them, Liam, or...?
Well, I would have hoped that Tipperary senators would have been working on behalf of Tipperary in the first place, to be quite honest, Fran. And they'll probably come on and shout at you now and tell you that they were. My problem is I wasn't getting any answers off them. I wasn't getting any answers from the...
And you asked them, did you?
Oh, I did ask them, yeah. I wanted to brought up at a council meeting. But look, I think... stop waiting for people to give you answers. Go look for them yourselves. I knew how to get the answers and I knew where to go to get them, and I got them. And what was given to me during this week has been asked for on numerous occasions locally of local representatives, and we haven't got it. And we have to say, we had staff members. I was asking these questions because realistically, Fran, it was the staff members in Cashel who didn't know whether they were going to be working in Cashel in July or whether they were going to be working in Clonbell in July. And all of those staff members have lives. They've got kids in school. They're not all living in Cashel. I mean, some of those staff members I spoke to were living in Tipperary town and coming working in Cashel. They want to know now whether they're going to have to go and working in Clonmel or where they're going to be working. So, I'm not going to wait until the last minute to give those sort of people assurances as to what's going to go on. I don't think the government should be waiting until the last minute to give them assurances, the HSE. And I think the local representatives who should have known about this or should have been asking these questions should have been telling those people long before I had to tell them. But it is what it is, and as I said, I work with political representatives of every party and none. As long as I'm working on behalf of Cashel and the people of the Cashel area, So that's what I did. I went out and I got a Kerry senator to do a job for me, and he did a job for me.
All right, Liam, good to talk to you. Thanks for your time today. Thank you.
You're welcome, fan. Not about it.
Good morning to you. Bye-bye. Councillor Liam Browne there, independent councillor from Cashel. Pat Lynch joins me now. Pat, good morning to you.
Morning, Fran, and to your listeners.
And good to talk to you today. I think you were listening to our conversation there about Gaza and with Zoe. What did you make of that?
Now, Zoe seems to be fairly up to scratch with things, and I will admit on radio that I know nothing about the situation in Gaza, right? What I do know is it's gone on way too long. And what I do know is when wars are going on that long, things develop, and anger and hurt and everything with people that have lost loved ones, all that stuff develops. So oftentimes these wars, and what I said to you before on the show, is we're unfortunate that we're relying on media, and media can portray it in a certain way, and we saw that even in Ireland, the way they portrayed the whole migrant thing, and we were all villains and we were all this and that. So media can actually put their own slant on things. So I will admit I don't understand the full situation, and I don't understand why it has gone on so long, and I don't understand why people didn't put a stop to this. But what I do know is we do need to bring about peace. And what I would like to see is, and again, I don't know enough about these talks, but if something like sport or whatever can bring people together and can stop this war and bring about peace, by all means, we should be looking at it. We shouldn't be closing down avenues that may help to bring about this peace, because peace needs to be brought about.
And do you think that the FAI, the Football Association of Ireland, should boycott the upcoming matches then against Israel? Do you think that that would play a part in showing our solidarity with the Palestinian people? Is that important, do you think?
You see, you'd have to be in at these talks, and you'd have to see the extent of what they're dealing with, what's on the table. But like where I'm coming from is we need to start to interact. We need to start showing friendship towards each other. And if it's in sport, whatever it's in, we need to start to bring about peace, because it's horrific what's going on there. And I've seen the footage, and as I said, it's horrific. It's inhumane what's going on. But this is going on right across the world. We have, unfortunately, my whole focus is on Ireland and what's going on in Ireland. So I am horrified with what's going on in Ireland. So, I don't need to go outside Ireland to see what's going on. And unfortunately, all these wars and all what's going on, even in Ireland, even in this migrant thing, all it is total and utter greed. And this is what brings about wars, is there's greed there. There's people grabbing land. There's people pushing people off their land. There's people being disrespectful to people's way of life. So there's a lot of that going on, but this is basically the nuts and bolts of why these things develop. And we've seen this with Ireland, with the whole migration thing, and we've had marches, we've had people going out there. People are basically, and why I was delighted to see Catherine Connolly getting in. Catherine Connolly is an advocate. She's big into this culture and what Ireland is about and the Irish people, and she is portraying that. And this is what we need to do. We need to start to get these politicians, we need to get people around the table to respect the ways of Ireland and put a stop to this money thing with this migration. Because all they're doing, what they're doing even is trafficking people even into this country, and people are they're bringing in cheap labour, they're putting jobs at risk and everything, and we're getting these excuses that the Irish wouldn't do the job. The Irish will do the jobs if they're paid. We see this with the whole healthcare thing, bringing in people to healthcare and then putting an embargo on our own nurses and doctors. We train our own doctors and nurses to the highest standard, and we see them leaving. So this whole thing...
It is a fact. I mean, we have gone off on a tangent, and that's fine because we often do on this programme. But, I mean, we do need the workers to come in, seemingly. We need them in hospitality, we need them in health, and we badly need them. In fact, we need more of them, according to the powers that be. What do you say to that, Pat?
Well, I said this to you before. We do need them because our own are leaving. Our own are leaving for a lot of reasons, and one of the main reasons they're leaving, and one of the biggest failures, I said it before, is the whole thing with housing. We have allowed housing to get out of hand, and we have the likes of James Browne that doesn't know a thing about housing, and it saddens me to hear him, and even I heard Micheál Martin saying we need these foreign investors to build. These foreign investors are the reason that things are gone out of hand. These foreign investors are coming in here and they're basically given a blank cheque to fill in their own amount, and sure, the Irish will pay whatever you come up with. This whole thing.
Right, but do you not accept that to build the amount of houses that we need, you do need private investment in building?
We don't need it.
But how do you get around it? How do you get around it then?
The Social Democrats had a brilliant idea there, and they were saying about all this money tied up in banks, we should be using all that money to build houses. There's money in the country, there's wealth in the country. We see the money that's been put into this migrant thing as well. There's no end to the money. So there's money in the country.
It's much more than money involved in this. I mean, it's land, it's planning, it's zoning, it's all of it. It's getting the workers, for God's sake, as well, Pat. I mean, there's so much attached to it, is there not?
The land and the planning is basically being handed to these developers. They're basically being given free land. And this is what Sinn Féin said it was. And again, it was misinterpreted in the media. Sinn Féin were basically saying that if councils have land, they should be building council houses on council land. But this was again misinterpreted in the media. And Sinn Féin were 100% correct in saying it. If the council buys land, there should be council houses put on that land. But what they're doing, and this is again Ireland, and this is again the type of politics we're dealing with. We have these foreign investors. This land is actually given to them. This is a freebie, and you'll build away there. And I know what you're in here to do is make profit, and you'll build the houses at little or nothing because the land is handed to you. The planning is overlooked with all this, and as I said, it's a free for all. But the bottom line is the people of this country are suffering with this type of politics.
All right, I must leave it there, Pat. Thanks for coming on with us today. 1800 938 007.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat, and welcome back to Tipp Today. 1800 938 007, the free phone number. Deputy Mattie McGrath is with me in studio. Good morning to you, Mattie.
Morning, Frank. This morning, good.
Thanks very much indeed for coming in to us today. Several things I want to talk to you about. Can I take you back to my conversation there with Councillor Liam Browne, though? And his need to go to a Kerry senator to bring up an issue, a local issue about the CNU unit in Cashel. Why would that be? Why wouldn't local representatives be doing
Councillors have many needs, friend, but that's not one they have. Any councillor that asks me to ask a question, Tipperary or for far beyond, and you can ask some of the councillors, actually, Morris, for instance. There's many of them. I ask questions all the time, and I don't even ask them to write them. You just send them in to me as they are, and I just put them in. So I have asked questions for Liam in the past. This is some time ago, ever before he was a councillor, actually. So I mean, look, he probably has a special relationship with Mark Daly, and that's fine too. But I've been chasing the belly that unit and raised it so many times in Cashel, so badly needed it. And indeed, I'm suggesting now, when we're talking about Ballypowdeen, that maybe that site should be looked at. If they look at Palmer's Hill, this is a much more accessible, level site, very airy site, as you used to always have one time ago called Fever Hospital. But nonetheless, it's a good site. I also was in Cashel the morning with former TD Matt Browne and Roger Kennedy. I think it was always all of us that were there when the agency dropped this bombshell. We're sitting in Our Lady in St. Patrick's, and they dropped the bombshell of no space just out of the blue. The first we heard of it, and there is great space in St. Patrick's. Indeed, there's a few friends of mine in there at the moment. I hope to go up to see them in the assessment unit. There's great space there. And, you know what I mean, there's room. And there's room.
They claim there wasn't enough parking there.
Yes, I don't know, but they did. But so look, I mean, they claimed the entrance had to be, the lodge at the 8 had to be knocked. God knows what claims they made. And then they went up to Palmer's Hill. I have a long memory going up to Palmer's Hill as a young boy with my appendix up to Surgeon Hogan, Noonan, and you know, in frosty weather that's very inaccessible. It's high and it's whatever. But look, they waste another 2 years, and this is what goes on. But I have been talking to Minister Mary Butler on this numerous times in recent months, as well as before the government was formed. And I've been watching this because I was afraid that Dungarvan would get it. We were second in line, but you know, one of Clonmella's coming on certainly, and badly needed, but it's delayed as well. So staffing then are other issues, but Cashel has to have this, and you know, either Our Ladies or back to St. Patrick's are still totally suitable.
And are you assured, because it's in the current HSE capital plan, are you assured?
Well, sir, I am and I'm not. I mean, they can come up with obstacles. As I said, that morning out of the blue, we got no prior notice. They just told us it wasn't. So the architects that come up with this.
What's your instinct on this? What's behind this? Because a lot of Cashel people, because of our history in Cashel, suspicious that you know the unit in Clonmel is almost finished, and we're sort of wondering is
I
Cashel
don't blame
going to be the
you for being
losers
suspicious, I don't blame you. And the staff above all, the excellent staff that are there, some retired now that I've dealt with, some still ongoing. The uncertainty for them is shocking. So they have a bad history. Even the courts couldn't save them. There was high court injunctions. I was involved in those meetings back all those years ago with the late Jack Crone, the late Sean McCarthy, and many, many others. And a huge battle. And Dr. Farrell, I remember at the time, Surgeon Farrell. So, I mean, look, they're right to be suspicious. But the things are so slow on the HSE. And to think then we go back into Our Ladies, they'll have to put in new lifts again because they go to white lifts, which I availed of that lift. I had my appendix out in Cashel. So, you know, things that they do. And I want to compliment what's going on in Our Ladies. And you know some of the people there as well that work there. I was up there some October, I think, for a tour and a visit. My goodness, I never enjoyed anything.
Yeah, you were invited there, weren't you?
I was invited there and invited back again. And I really saw the standard of care and the standard and the joy above all was more important, and the faces
and why not invest in the unit there?
Yeah, but so this is the HSE. They keep passing around, but you must remember this is a lucrative business for teams of consultants, and they look at any problem. They look at to put it up in the top of the cash if you ask them, because they'll do out a report, take couple of years, 6 months to do it. This is the problem. That morning we were hit with that, as I said, at the meeting in St. Patrick's, and out of the blue, that it wasn't big enough, and we were parked in the yard with no problem, and I never saw a problem really in parking. I did full maybe at functions or something, but I never saw a problem, and I've often in St. Patrick's, and my own mother was in the assessment unit there and got well looked after, excellent staff, and great treatment of people.
Can't understand it. What about that U-turn after the National Council for Special Education contacted almost 200 schools indicating their allocations of SNEs was being reduced, and the talk about relocation and all sort of stuff? It was really egg on the face for this.
Yeah, and now they've come up with 18 million this morning or last night at the meeting.
19 million, yeah.
Sorry?
19 million.
19 million, yeah, sorry. I didn't see the figure, I just heard it. Look, that's my point. Look, it should never have been. This is such a sensitive, delicate area. And the battles that some families have, even the bus services, you know, when we in our own area had lost our bus service there, and thankfully some others took it up, but the angst on the parents and the guardians and the carers is shocking. I want to salute all the SNAs and the work they do, and indeed, you know, they came out and supported school secretaries when they were having their battle there, and still ongoing battle, you know, some months ago as well. But SNAs are very special. And I have two daughters now to teach, one secondary school and one in national school. So you have more of an experience, you know, and like the big classes. And my daughter, you know, one of them said to me, look, so sometimes, you know, if you haven't the SNAs, they haven't the support staff, they can turn into, you know, tricky situations. And I don't understand any more than that. So it was totally insensitive. And then I had Michael Minor, who have a good relationship, who I'd been on to an hour after this happened, and Hildegard, she was just be the former whip, and they were all on different, and Mian Martin, and indeed Simon Harris. So 4 different people kind of saying 4 different things, or the same thing in different ways, and confusion abounded. And thankfully last night, I wasn't happy when I heard about the pause. I wanted to stop dead.
Yeah, because it is only a sticking plaster, really.
Yes, but thank God for a year. And I suppose a month is a relief for the families, you know, and the teachers and the school communities. But a year, certainly, I would hope then that we would, by 12 months, there would proper examination and look at it. But we seem to be unable to do this.
How did it get to a situation that those letters could have been posted without any sort of proper overseeing of this?
This is the problem. Ministers come and go, and the officials are there, and they do what they like a lot of the time. And if they don't agree with what a minister wants, since Sally High went really, there's no one taking on these officials, these mandarins. They're just too powerful, and I mean, sometimes it's done. I don't know what kind of a mindset you'd have, but it shouldn't have happened. The minister should be in control, or his advisors.
And speaking
and they
of
have numerous advisors.
I heard Thomas Byrne describe then what happened. I mean, it is a U-turn, and his description was that the government were just being responsive. Like, really?
Thomas, I know Thomas well. I got into it all the same day as him. He lost his seat at one stage and went back. But Thomas, they use this language. You see, the problem is with ministers and the coterie of advisors and the cost of them. They make up all these sayings and quotes and nice sound bites and, being responsible. It was a mess, an unholy mess. And thankfully, people power shot it back very fast, but it shouldn't happen to happen. I was in the church that day in Dublin at time of the Grey vote back all those years ago, 2010 or whatever. But I held it frightened the life out of them, and old people and the quiet people, but they were angry. I remember trying to mind poor Sean Connick, great friend of mine, who was in a wheelchair, and everyone ran for their lives. So the politicians, but I stayed back with Sean, in fairness, and we dealt with it the best we could. But it was just very, very difficult and animated. They shouldn't be cavalierly making these decisions, especially with SNAs and special needs children.
And do you mind the fact that you're associated with supporting this?
But I didn't support it.
No, but you know what I mean? The association is there all the time. And I don't have to tell you, I see it on social media. This is thrown at you all the time.
Look, people don't understand me. My late brother, Dr. Eddie, was a paediatrician of some renown, and he actually in his deathbed said to me, get elected and try and help the sick children and South and St. Joseph's Hospital as it was. So that's part of the course. I made representations. I spoke very strongly to Michael Mine and to Hildegard Knox, as I said, and I haven't been in it all a lot of late because due to illness, but I made my pressures on it, and I said when I heard about the pause, there should be a stop, full stop, a red sign, and it is a red sign now, but to try and dress it up as anything else is silly. But I hope there will be time and space, and they'll sit down with the school communities, with the parents reps, and I had Forza calling stick and plaster. Look, that's what it is, and maybe not
because it's just been kicked down the road.
Yes,
really,
and we have to deal with
it. Talk to me a bit about policing. There's an awful lot of fear. I presume you're well aware of this, living in a rural area. An awful lot of fear in our rural areas. Break-ins, there's burglary going on all of the time. Mattie, a lot of older people feeling vulnerable in their homes now. You were talking about policing recently.
I raised in the door, and latest question would be Hal Martin. I got the usual mantra thrown back at me. Look, it's not only the lack of Gardaí, which is terrible, but we have the community left groups. We were the second community left group in the country set up in Newcastle. No engagement anymore with the Garda Síochána, and not because of the Gardaí, I want to come in them. They can't do it. They're not there. The neighbourhood watch and the guard community left meetings where we had the sergeant or a guard to visit and meet the people at a meeting on a Sunday or whatever, are different engagements. Now, they had the social at Christmas, the guard social, I want to compliment them on that and care. They had one at Clonmel and Hillview, compliment the Gardaí on that, but they don't have the resources. They're not on the ground. They're not seen. And people can't get answers from Garda stations. I got an appalling case last week, 2 weeks ago, when those robberies started off. And imagine starting in Galbally and come into West Tipp and do all the villages. And a good friend of mine took her Jeep and gold and a work Jeep that he needed. That was found burnt out. But they had free rein around mid and part of North Tipp and South Tipp for several hours. They ended up with 4 vehicles in a convoy.
I saw some of the CCTV on them. Yeah. They were so brazen.
But why wouldn't they? Because they know. And one man then contacted me, and I made arrangements yesterday for the inspector to talk to him. Who they tried to get into his property, he prevented them, and they tried to get his second way, and he prevented them by going around a different road. That's how brazen they are. And he followed them in a car in a safe distance, as he thought, and was on the phone to the guards. And he told them, they tried to ram him off the road. They tried to do everything to him, and he said, look, he was frightened. He was on the phone to the Gardaí. I assumed his care. The only place is manned at night outside of Clonmel, in South Tipp. West Tipp is Tipperary, but that's another situation. By the service, by numbers, not by the Gardaí themselves. And he told the Garda, I'm going to drive to Cashel now because they're following me. Have Gardaí please wait, and then we can arrest them and I'll be safe. And he was told not to go near Cashel because it was closed and it was a cul-de-sac and it was a dangerous place. You get trapped in there. And he said to go up to the McDonald's, to the 24-hour station where it was lit up. It's an appalling situation. To tell someone that was, after trying to be robbed, was following them for a safe distance to help the Gardaí, and no one to assist them. I mean, that is the fact of it night and day. People in Carrick-on-Suir putting up with that for a number of years.
And is this the amalgamation between Clare and Tipperary? Is that at the essence of
that's
this?
That's certainly worsened it, yeah. We have a chief superintendent now that if you're looking for her, she's in Clare, and if you want in Clare, in Tipp you're looking for her, she's in Clare. If you're looking for her in Tipp, she's in Clare, and vice versa. And I asked the superintendent Clare recently, would he put out a missing persons alert that we could meet her, because I only met her once since she was appointed, and that meeting didn't prove very, very effective either. But I mean, before I could ring the chief superintendent, the last one we had was Derek Smart. Any day of the week, any time, I had his mobile number. I wouldn't unless I had to.
But I mean, you know yourself, the Gardaí will tell you off the record, this doesn't work.
It doesn't work. How could it work? How could it work? You used to go through Limerickshire to get to Clare. How could it work? Resources have been pulled, and been told by Shamie Morris and others, several times been pulled, and by the GRA, been pulled from North Tipp, those areas up into Cllr, and the resources aren't here. I mean, we had 2 Gardaí, you remember, in my area, in Alfinner and Cloheen area, seriously assaulted and injured, out on their own, doing dangerous work, and badly assaulted.
Why can't we just accept that idea didn't work and move on? Because my understanding is in other jurisdictions they tried that amalgamation and it didn't work out and they reverted back.
And you can ask Tom Finnan, he'd tell you anyway, at the time they came up
former
with this.
GRA.
Yes, great work was on, he was always, and Richie now as well is doing his very best, Richard Kennedy, but he'd tell you at the time when they hit us with this one, then we were fighting this situation, we'll have a chief superintendent. And of course my colleagues, 4 of them, at the time, it was 5-seater, accepted it. I didn't accept it, I saw for what it was. We have a chief super name based in Thurles, but he's not dealing with anything in Tipperary. He's dealing with the whole, first of all, the Limerick Clare, he's dealing with the southern region then as well. So it was only a sop, and it bought off the politicians, so we shouldn't be allowed us to be bought off like that, or just tricked us. We don't have the chief super. We had a reasonable allocation, but this goes back to the very, very long time ago. To Catherine, she's retired now, Catherine Sharper, I can't think of her second name, and I had a good relationship with her, but we were starved of numbers then, and we were starved of overtime, and we got into a situation in that we're being held up as a shining light around the country. Look what they can do in Tipperary division with so few guards, with so little overtime and so little allocation, sitting back at money. So that started it, and we were left in when
so what is it? Your phone is just buzzing on the desk. So what is the answer to this now? I mean, we need lots more Gardaí.
Sorry about the phone. Of course we do, Fran, and they are trying to play catch up in Temple. When I see 100 going to Dublin and 30 going to Cork and County for Tipp Clare division, I mean, we got go back to the previous one, the second last outcrop. We got 4 new recruits, and I welcome them, and I'm delighted to see them. But we lost 6 experienced guys from Clonmel Town. I mean, I had people into the coursing in Clonmel where there were incidents, and they still haven't got a call back from people after calling to the station. Now the superintendent was on your radio here. He's gone now since, Niall O'Connell, and he told people to ring 999. They don't want you ringing the gas station now because they know there's nobody there. And it's a shocking situation. You ring 999. I know an ex-guard, he did in Newcastle one day. He's working with us in the community, doing great work. Guard for years, Liam Kelly. He's doing great work in community for us in Newcastle for the 3 parishes that were involved in the CE scheme. And he looked at what he saw people inside in his car. This was 11 o'clock in the morning. Crossed the street outside the church. And he ran out and they went off and they were masked. They ran off. And he rang the gas, right? And he rang the 999, and next thing, and he waited hours, and next thing, no answer. He rang back. Yeah, we dispatched the car to that, Newcastle West. They sent him to Newcastle West, and we were in Newcastle. Couldn't be any more south of it last Sunday night in Marmillery. And they were they'll tell you how. They don't know in those answering. Same with Irish Water. And God knows the people that are there, many of them are non-national. They have no clue at all. The whole local connectivity. But the biggest problem is we don't have the guard on the beat. The community police and the units.
And I have to put it to you, Mattie, I mean, how much is down to, how effective local representatives like yourself are where this is concerned?
Well, we have to take a lot of the blame. We're not getting listened to. We're told to shut up, everything is fine, figures are manicured. The figures that we get, the crime figures are totally manicured because they don't take into account the number of people.
Well, they came out, what was it, a couple of days ago saying crime generally down.
That's only baloney because they're not accounting of maybe the 30% maybe or more. I'm being very conservative, who don't get through to the gas station. You understand me? They're not accounting 10, 15, a growing number. In fact, they don't
This is crime happening that the Gardaí don't even know about because they can't get hold of the Gardaí.
And then there's another element of people that don't report it. I mean, at all. So you could have up to 40%.
Why? Because they feel it's not worth...
Yeah, and they've just given up ghost on it.
But that's a terrible
It's shocking.
situation.
But that's how bad it is. Shocking. I mean, it's shocking. I had people on to me for years. I brought it chapter and verse to the ministers, to the commissioner, who didn't care about anybody, Daddy or public officials, anybody, who he treated us.
The former commissioner,
yes. I haven't met the new man yet, but I mean, the sister, he's inherited now, but it's just, they've made so many of these new systems, so they've moved away totally. Same with the HSE, same with the Irish Water. They've moved away from the community completely. The Gardaí haven't time now that the people are there to be on the beat. Before Christmas and all last summer, Gardaí were being asked to policing in overtime. And the Gardaí are fatigued, many of them, because they're finished on night's duty. There's a message in there for anyone volunteer to cover Carrick tonight on overtime. Before, in the last summer, due to pressure from us, they put out requests every Friday, or maybe Thursday, would anyone volunteer to do a beat, 4 hours in care of a Friday or a Saturday, and the same, in Cashel.
That's incredible.
But that's the facts of it. And Richard Kennedy tell you that. And people wouldn't, they did first. They couldn't keep it up. You can't do your job and be on overtime as well and do everything else. So that's how bad it was. And then they complain about the traffic court. The traffic court are pulled off all the time to assist with ordinary stuff that they shouldn't be doing. I mean, well, the guard has to do everything, obviously, but, in emergencies.
And obviously, community policing is suffering here as well.
Community policing. And I want to thank Fiona in Clonmel and Sergeant O'Leary now, and the other guard's name evades me. He's lived in Care, but evades me. I lived in Clonmel, sorry. There's 3 now been put into, where we had 5 one time in Clonmel. There's 3 now to cover the whole Care, Clonmel area, and that includes Fellerton, Ballyporeen. So
do a couple of other updates for me, if you can. Ophthalmology and the ophthalmologist and the recruitment of. What is the thing?
No, fine shambles by the HSE, because they refused to, first of all, Dr. Hillary out to pay tribute again, an excellent woman, an excellent practitioner. She'd give me a year's notice. Yeah. Typically didn't do anything about it until she was ready to go out the door. Then they made a half-baked advertise. Then they advertised for a part-time job, if you wouldn't mind. So now they have, under pressure from us, it's a shocking situation that 2,500 children more as growing list are waiting for.
But John O'Heaney was telling me that, Councillor John O'Heaney was telling me that now there are people interested in the consultancy job.
Yes,
is that your understanding?
It is, yes, but will they take it? Will they have a guarantee? Will it be? As we got somebody first, and then they didn't take the job from work to cancel. So they split up now for secondary ancillary posts. But this should have been done when they got notice of Dr. Hillary. This is typically the HSE. You get no answers, they fob you off. But we're suffering here. I know they don't.
The backlog is about, 1,500 children?
Yes, more, 2,500.
Yeah, but children.
Yeah, I know of letters then that go down to water, and they're not even taken out of the pigeonhole. I've been told by staff there. The doctor consultancy don't want to even see him, and we take out the letters and put them back in again. They're not even. So that's a shocking situation for South Tipperary. And I said that, and John O'Heaney was critical of me at the time when John ran with that story, great news, which was, I won't believe great news from the HSE until I see the situation operating. And across the board, in any action, whether there's even a home help, I won't. I'll tell the family, and look, it's a promise, but now they'll give you home help overnight nearly, but they've no one to fill them. So, you know what I mean? You can't believe it.
Why do you have an issue with the European Union presidency and the branding around that? Why?
It's a waste of money. This is another trophy project for Micheál Martin and the ministers. And then I had a Sinn Féin TD last week, or 2 weeks ago, asking the Queen about the job and was it going to be advertised and what was it going to cost. She didn't even know that it was the Prime Minister.
That was very unfortunate for the party, to say the least.
Yes, and then last week she was talking about Bluetooth, and she confused it with Bluetooth. So, I mean, and, where do you go? So, look, I have an issue because branding umbrellas, I don't know what the figure is there for umbrellas and the figure for little satchels and an A4 jotter and whatever branded. We don't need this frivolity.
But doesn't every country do that? Isn't there branding around all these occasions?
Of course there is. And I remember when they changed from North Tip to South Tip, the cost of the branding, everything that a shovel was branded, and no one uses them anymore anyway. So, I mean, the cost of it for show. To a big show, it is going to cost Ireland a fortune, and we're having to part to play in as regards security to mind these people who are depending on France and England and everything else. The thing is farcical. But Micheál and the ministers wanted to be able to invite all these over here, give them the nice little packages. It's just colossal. The same with COP. All these things are big shows. As I said, it's like the Emperor with no clothes. I said to someone yesterday, it's like having a fur coat and no petticoat underneath it. You know what I mean? So it's farcical, really, and the costs, especially, and we can give 125 million to Ukraine president who arrives over here, addresses the door, which I refuse to attend on the day, and go off for that kind of money, and then we'll see what the SNA is and everything else, you know. And the waste, it just goes on and on and on and on. Friend, if we could touch on Ballypodine, if you don't mind, and indeed the road allocations. The road allocations, some very good news in them, but some very disappointing news. Like, well, we got 500,000 for the N24 from Cllr to the passes here to Waterford. We wanted 3 million to keep the project alive, and that's very perilous. And so unfair to the householders, especially, that our houses are under threat of being demolished, and landowners as well, but many other issues. While I welcome some money, then you see with $1 million for Tipp Town pavement, and no one could tell me where it was or what it was. It's an overspending last year's money. So this kind of manipulation with figures. I can understand how work can overrun and costs, but that's colossal. So there's money there for road strengthening and bridges, and indeed very badly needed. And the CIS schemes are up, and the LIS scheme funding will be announced tomorrow. So we're hoping for an improvement on that. But overall, we got 2.7 million for the Cllr to Cockbreeder to Limerick, which is great to see that being progress, but it's still too slow. So I mean, there's some nice little bits and pieces in their works, and I want to compliment the engineers and staff in Tipp Council for making these submissions.
Do you accept, Mattie, that, I mean, and this is the opinion of a lot of people, and I have to admit it's my own opinion, is there an awful lot of money being wasted on bicycle lanes? Like,
shocking.
To the point of, and I see very few people using them.
Look at Cashel, they don't are afraid to use it. You're the one in from the roundabout into the factory.
The one on Argea coming out of Clonmel.
But I haven't driven that much since, but I know it's round
both sides of the road. I mean,
and it's on so long. But the one of the biggest fast of all, the one at Knocker, is going from a junction to junction.
This is a car,
and the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 lorries have ran into it. And I've asked for who designed it because it's dangerous. They put people, invite people to cycle and walk there. At your peril, you'll do it because there's a barrier on the other side at least. Arctics have ran in there. So look, money spent on Knocker was badly needed to reline the road and make the junction safer. And I fought for that.
Is it true that to get funding in the first place, you have to invest in these lanes?
I speak to senior engineers in Waterford Council more often than Tipp actually about this. They ring me, they're furious, tearing their hair out. They can't get money for badly needed safety improvements and road resurfacing. And if they put something like this, they'll get heaps of money. Then can we go to the waste in Ballypodine? Like, this is shocking, friend, and I can't believe it.
These are the houses outside of Cashel.
Yes.
And just you had that meeting there after we last spoke. How did that work?
I'm inviting you again, friend. I put it back on you, and I'm inviting you as well on behalf of Councillor Brennan and myself to try and organise that meeting with our traveller friends about the sulky race, and we must try and advance that. I intend to resubmit my legislative private member's bill to deal with that issue. We see the knee-jerk reaction to the unfortunate person killed by the scrambler, proper order, but we're going to wait till the same thing happens with sulkies and other issues as well. Ballypodine, just to put this in context, full planning permission was granted for these houses. Like, people are spreading all kinds of innuendo. Full planning. There was a little bit of hanky-panky, not panky, it happens in most cases. One out of the house were built somewhere off the footprint. They went back and got retention for that. So then the county council stopped the building. That's why it stopped. The county council, in order to get off the site, stopped the building. Mr. Campion and his team, quite robustly were told, took him to court. Council lost the case in court. They got the chance to appeal the court decision, like any court decision in the circuit court. District court, you can appeal to the circuit court, the high court. They didn't appeal. So we know then. And now this try and come up with this bombshell then at a district meeting, but it's up to the councils, and I don't know why you don't ask the council when they're on about it. There seems to be a kind of a veil of silence over it, who have a vote on this and a part date. They then advertise the part date, not as vigorously as they're advertising the part date at the moment. I heard this morning again for the Blue Way.
I must wrap this up. So they talk about demolishing the houses.
Yeah, because a part date. Okay. In tandem with the Part 8 process, which is a public process, and the council vote on it, the district councils vote on it, they had a tender document out to demolish them. How can this happen before the Part 8? So, thankfully, a person made a submission on that and asked for it to be referred to Board Penala. It is referred to Board Penala, and now the council will have to produce an environmental impact.
So the demolition is on hold then, is that it?
It's never decided on it. They made an agreement, apparently, mediation outside the course, to demolish it and pay the developer a lot of money to demolish them, not demolish them, to allow them to be demolished, because he obviously sued. Rightly so, because he won his cases. He was entitled.
But for the moment, this is on hold.
Well, Board Penala now will have to do an environment impact assessment, and I see it here as use. They'll tell it in it was a tourism use. There was a hotel with it, of course, like many other states, and one in Nina recently who they wouldn't allow it to be changed planning, not in Nina, but in Alan Kelly, Port Row. So this can be used, ideal to be looked at for the nursing unit in Cashel, ideal to be looked at for sheltered housing for elderly, ideal to be looked at for a tourism project, many other aspects. Because the buildings are such a fine quality, and I appeal to people to make arrangements. We'll be having another public viewing to go and see them themselves. If these buildings were falling down and were rubbish, I wouldn't be fighting in this case, because it's waste of public money.
I must leave it there. But Mattie, thanks for coming into us today. Thanks very much indeed. We'll take a break, back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, last week, advocate for women's sex-based rights, child safeguarding and fact-based education, Sandra Adams, joined us on the show to discuss the puberty blocker trial backed by the NHS. And there's been a lot of movement on this since, and she joins me again. Good morning to you, Sandra.
Good morning, Fran.
And thanks very much indeed for coming back to us today. You're obviously happy about this decision, Sandra?
Yes, well, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
The Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency in the UK has decided that the trial is to be halted, and the team need to look again at the study and make some changes to it. So that is good news. But halted doesn't mean that it's gone for good. So we still need to be vigilant.
Yeah, they're saying it will only be allowed to go ahead if the expert scientific and clinical evidence and advice conclude that it's both safe and necessary. But my reading into this, and indeed from the CAS report as well, that's never going to be the case.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I'm not sure how you could design a trial that would have children as young as 14 being asked whether or not they wanted to freeze their sperm and eggs in order to avoid infertility, because no child could actually consent to that. They can't understand those concepts. They've been asked to raise the age of admission to the trial from 10 to 14 years and to extend monitoring. But as you say, I'm really not sure what would be the point, because if you can't give a puberty blocker to a child until they're 14, they've effectively gone through most of puberty. So what are you blocking it for? And what became apparent, we should say that this organisation, the MHRA, had already approved the trial, but thankfully they'd listened to people saying that if you give a child a puberty blocker, 90% of them will go on to take what are called wrong sex or cross-sex hormones. So you give boys estrogen and you give girls testosterone. And that is what destroys their fertility. But 90% of children who go on puberty blockers end up taking these other hormones. And it really is a one-way street. It's a cul-de-sac. Once you put children on them, they essentially are locked in. And there's no other exploratory therapies being offered instead of the blockers.
I know that this is just a pause, but in its own way, and I'm just reading what some of the politicians came out and said about this, Sandra, is this a game changer?
You would hope so. You would hope that, scientists who are responsible for giving permission for the trial to go ahead have actually listened to other scientists who've said, this is a really bad idea. This is a really bad trial. And what we should remember is that 9,000 children were seen by the Tavistock Gender Clinic in the space of about 18 years. And between 2012 and 22, Irish children were sent to that clinic. Now, 2,000 of those 9,000 children were put on puberty blockers, and the NHS has refused to give data on what happened to those children to researchers. So surely the first place you start is by looking at the 2,000 children who've already had puberty blockers and see what were their outcomes. But remarkably, the NHS has refused to give that information over, and that's really where we need to start.
What lessons do we take from this here in the Republic, do you think, Sandra?
Well, I think we need to listen to the National Gender Service, Paul Moran and Donal O'Shea, who treat adults who have gender dysphoria, who have confusion about their identity. And they're on record as saying that when young people, Irish children who went on puberty blockers, came to them as adults, they were essentially, and this is a quote, bedroom bound and mute. So those children were profoundly damaged by this experience. And it's not surprising, because many of the children who were treated by the Tavistock had autism, underlying mental health problems, had experienced trauma. And those issues have to be looked at first before you put a child on a drug.
And that's in the CAS report, isn't it? It's very clear in the CAS report.
And this is what's remarkable, is that so much of what was in the CAS report was ignored. She did recommend that a trial take place, but she also recommended that you look at all of these other factors,
yes,
like what is going on in the child's life, what is the child's mental state, does the child have autism? Many children who were in care were overrepresented in the Tavistock. So what was happening to those children? That's where you need to start.
Sandra, thank you for coming back to us on this. Thank you, and good morning to you. That's Sandra speaking to us there on that issue. Sandra Adams, 1800 938 007. The text and WhatsApp is 083 311 3311. Now, one of our listeners says, could you put it out there, Fran, is anybody else having issues with air to water? We're in our 70s, we're living in a council house, and when they put in the air to water, they took out our chimney and our gas. It's been a disaster. When there's a power cut, we're left with nothing. We have no heating. We have no fire to light. This happened around Christmas time. We were just freezing. Has anybody else had a similar issue? That's it from one of our listeners. 083 311 3311. Now, earlier on, we were speaking about the FAI and the games with Israel. One of our listeners on to say our government stopped a group of Palestinian children from coming here to play hurling, a break which those children needed desperately. The government facilitated the selling of war bonds by our central bank to fund genocide in Gaza. And they continue to facilitate military flights through Shannon to various conflicts. Hardly the actions of a peace-loving government of a so-called neutral company in my country, even in my opinion, says Brian to us. All right, we'll take a break. Back in just a moment.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1800 938 007. Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puck On. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tipptoday@tippfm.com.
Now, at the very top of the programme, I was speaking to Councillor Jim Ryan, and he was making the point that Thurles is the birthplace of the GAA, and more needs to be done to celebrate the history of the organisation and to create some sort of visitor experience in the town. But I listen around to say Jim is building castles in the air. Museums and interpretive centres are struggling everywhere, like the Michael Cusack Centre in the Burn, the Lowry Marr Centre in Tullaroan, even the Munster Rugby Museum in Limerick closed down when private investment was withdrawn. Jim should do a survey on the number of visitors daily to Lorna Porca and even to the Tourist Information Office there, which is where the merchandise shop was located and had no hope of surviving as an individual sports shop in competition with the multi-stores who buy in bulk and can move stock between shops. Thurles is only a town, not a city, and that is why the concert promoters have no interest. Croke Park already invested heavily in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and Cork GAA are struggling to pay off loans of up to 30 million. Does Jim want to land Tipp GAA in the same position? Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I mean, what he's talking about initially, anyway, is modest enough. It's really, I suppose, about signage and some sort of a tourist trail. And there is the notion that if you build it, they will come. You know, I mean, if you create something, there may be an interest in. I don't know. Anyway, can we put it out to listeners? How do you feel about that? Now, after more than 50 days of non-stop rain, I think it's about 54 days at this point here in Ireland, a lot of people are joking that the weather's gone full pathetic fallacy. So it's starting to really get them down. Well, regular contributor Peter Ryan joins me now. Good morning to you, Peter.
Morning, Fran. How are you this not rainy morning?
Well, it was raining earlier around Dundrum, I have to say. Peter, you don't have much sympathy for people who are affected in some way by the wet weather.
It's not that I don't have any sympathy for them, Fran, but it's we're talking about December, January. It's winter.
It's winter in Ireland.
Yes. And if this weather will stay to December, January, and a certain amount of February even, you know, long as we start getting the spring, and then we get the payoff in the summer. Now, if we got 50 days rain in the summer, I'd be like a good cat. But this time of the year, we have to walk around it. Now, I'm outdoor 70-80% of the time. I have to plan big time for the winter, every winter, because I'm self-employed, so I can't run away every morning. I wake up and there's a shower outside, or I can't go into get wet time. I don't have any of those luxuries. So I just have to get on with it and plan for it. And long as it stays at winter, I haven't too much sympathy for people, because in farming, animals are in. Like we had November this year, there were herds of cows out until end of November. So obviously we are going to pay for that on the other side of winter, which it looks like we are now. We'll probably be going into March before there'll be any serious livestock back out in land and that. So I think it swings and roundabouts, but long as we get a summer, let it rain in January. That and February, that would be my attitude in the whole thing.
And do you go along? I mean, seemingly an awful lot more rain this year than previous years. Would that be your experience as an outdoors person, Peter?
Look, I think we actually get the same amount of rain every year. But some years it's more condensed, it's more together.
Oh, I see what you mean. So sometimes it's more spread out over a longer period of time.
Yes,
is that it?
Yes,
all right.
yes. And I think we'll end up at the end of the year. I'll put a small little bet with you, Fran. We'll probably be talking about the hose pipe ban before 3 months, you know.
We might indeed,
Well, there's no doubt in the world about it, but we will be, I'm sure, because this is how crazy things are.
What do you make of all the weather warnings from Met Air, and there's yellow ones and orange ones?
No, they are a way more serious issue. Like, I'm around long enough now to know that days that we have orange weather warnings, we had worse days when we had to walk across the fields to school.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. They're creating havoc. There are people putting off jobs that they'd say, oh, we'll start that job Tuesday morning. And then Monday or sometimes somebody talking about a yellow or a bit of wind or rain, and you get the phone call, well, look, we better leave that for a few days because the weather is this, that and the other thing. And the next thing you're there on Wednesday or whatever day it is, and it's the finest day of the year.
And you know, something that's not talked about all that much, Peter, is it is wiping out the entertainment industry, because as you can imagine, particularly with older people, they get this warning, they won't come out, and then it turns out to be grand.
Yeah, I have no doubt about that, and it's crazy. It's all, you see, it's all back to insurance.
Yeah.
And if you're warned, no matter which warning it is, the insurance have covered themselves. This isn't for the good of people's health that we'll forget to bring a raincoat and we're going to get a drop of rain. It's about insurance, and that's why all these weather warnings and all this carry-on has come in. Now, one warning, 2 warnings in a year would definitely be maximum.
Yeah, when it's a storm and when it's very serious, but other than that, what do we expect living in Ireland? I mean, it's going to be rain.
Yeah, and like, what is a yellow warning? Like, it might rain in Dublin, it might be a lovely day down here, and the whole country has to come to a standstill.
But you know what I hadn't thought about at all is the point you made there. I didn't realise the effect it would have on the building trade, for example.
Oh, yeah, it's massive. Because if you have maybe 16, 20 meters or cubic meters of ready mix ordered, and you say, hold on a second, look at this. And the next thing, you have to ring the company before 7 o'clock in the morning and cancel it, or else to your baby or whatever anyway. And you say, God, I can't take that chance. And next thing you have to, that's another day. Maybe you might have people lined up to give you a hand with it. You'll have heritage, you'll have all this stuff. Maybe some of it rented out. And the next thing you realise, God, this is again there. If we were left deal like we used before, look around, look at the mountains, see where the wind is coming from, and judge it ourselves, we'd be an awful lot better off.
Yeah, it's interesting, and of course, whenever there's extreme weather of any kind, we try and tie it into climate change. Then, and there's always that conversation around that. What do you make of that?
I don't know. I think we just have lost the plot completely. We got this weather back years and years ago. I've been told about from older people. Things really hasn't changed very much. We always had a mild winter, and we always had a good, healthy winter. And that'll happen again, you know. And I think climate change there is probably a bit of a problem with it, because when the planes were taken out of the sky during COVID, things improved, I believe, a lot. But we were still lighting fires during COVID. We were still having to keep ourselves warm and things like that. So when you bring in climate change, the next thing they'll want to start doing is banning our stoves and our natural way of heating ourselves and keeping ourselves warm.
Well, they've already done that, haven't they? With turf and timber.
They're back now again on the new run, to starting now on stoves again. They kind of eased off, and stoves and all that were very much a thriving business, and a lot of people were putting them in, and there was a cheap way and a very good way of heating your home and keeping yourself warm. Plus, you're using up timber that's been blown down by all these weather warnings, or maybe it's a bit of wind that comes, I don't know which, but look, you're cleaning up the countryside. You're doing what we've done all our lives, burning natural wood and stuff like that. And now they're having to go with that, like, you know. They're just climate change. Take the planes out of the sky, or a lot of them.
All right.
Forget about all this travelling to meetings. We're going to have the European over here in a couple of months' time.
The presidency,
and the whole place will be flooded with planes again, you know. So.
All right, Peter. Pleasure, as always, Peter. Look after yourself out there.
Take care and
Thank
stay
you.
in the rain.
Thank you, Carmilla Mago. Thanks. That's Peter Ryan there in Newcastle. Fran, my mother gave nearly 3 years in Our Lady's Hospital in Cashel. It was a lovely place to visit. No problem with parking. And my mum did not like the single room. She preferred the 3-bed wards, where there was also always something happening to keep her alert, to keep her interested. And talking to a nurse on the ward, she said that nobody had asked them what the patients want. And their biggest concern was when a patient was sent to Clonmel, they were left for hours on the trolley, says George to us from Nina today. 1800 938 007.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the final hour of Tipp Today. 1800 938 007 is our free phone number. If you want to talk to Leanne, you can text on WhatsApp 083 311 3311. We agree with Councillor Liam Browne. It says the new unit should be in Our Lady's Hospital in Cashel. It makes no sense, as he pointed out. Less of the talking and get on with the installation. All right, time for this.
Legal discussion on Tipp Today is brought to you in association with Lynch Solicitors Clonmel, on the web at lynchsolicitors.ie and at divorceineireland.com.
Gillian O'Mahony from Lynch Solicitors with me in studio. Good morning to you, Gillian, and good to see you today. A recent High Court decision you're going to talk to us about in a family law case.
Correct.
Unusual one?
Well, it was a decision that was published and it appeared in a lot of the national media over the last week or two. So it's a High Court decision of Judge Nuala Jackson. So we are a common law country, so our law doesn't totally derive from legislation, statute. Cases provide precedents, and it is a precedent then which is followed by all other courts, lower courts, and the precedent then can only be changed by a court of equal standing, the High Court or a Supreme Court. So this was an interesting case. It was a High Court family law case. So to go into the High Court for a family law case, first of all, the assets have to be over 3 million. If the assets are under 3 million, it's a circuit court case, and we in Clonmel have a local circuit court family law court, so it's much more local. The High Court family law court sits in Dublin, and there are generally 2 judges who hear these types of cases. So in this case, the assets were worth nearly 7 million. It was a long marriage. It was a 20-year marriage, I think, from a 20-year marriage to include some of the relationship. There were 3 children who are now teenagers. In this case, the wife gave up her job early to stay at home to look after the children. The husband worked in a family business. It was originally a family business. It was an agri type business company, and that was, I suppose, what we call the golden goose. It funded the family. Yes. It provided the income. The wife was looking for 50% of the assets here. Her argument was that, okay, the origins, the provenance was from his family, but the business developed during the course of the marriage, and it came to success during the course of the marriage by virtue of her contribution, by virtue of her staying at home looking after the children, and as a result the husband went out to work and developed this business.
Right, so it was her support. So really, if she was to get what she was looking for, the business would have to be sold then, was that it, Jill?
Presumably, yes, or she would... or you'd need an investor or whatever. Yeah. So in this case, the family home was worth in or around 1.5 million. The business was the business itself was worth about 2.5, and I think it was sitting on land. There was a dispute in the case as to the value of the land. It was valued as agricultural land, but the wife was arguing it could also be valued as development land because of zoning, and they could relocate, and she was looking for that to be taken into account. In this case, she was looking for an equal asset split, but the law says that the court only has to provide proper provision. So our legislation says proper provision. It doesn't say equal distribution. It doesn't say 50-50. It's proper provision. What does proper provision mean? It's different in every case. But generally, I suppose the first thing you look at, the first headline, and one of the factors to be taken into account is accommodation. Where are both parties going to live? In this case, ultimately, the court decided, Judge Nuala Jackson said that equal asset split was unsuitable in this case because the livelihood was at stake. So that was one of the factors for refusing equal asset split. The second factor was the provenance of the assets. So the main asset, the primary asset, was this agri-business company and the lands on which it had its business, and the court found that had been generated, or the origins of it had been from the husband's family. The court said that assets that come from outside of the family, such as inheritance, gifts, pre-marriage or post-separate assets, are to be of a different character. So the court can only really take them into account if it has to take them into account, or a court might give you a bigger slice of the family home and not touch the business, such as in this case, the wife got the full family home, which was worth 1.5 million. It was the court ordered that it be sold, so she got the full family home rather than 50-50. So ultimately the wife got she had a 15% shareholding in the company. She got the family home. She also had another asset pre-marriage, but it worked out that I think she got between 30 and 40% of the assets, and the husband had kept in excess of 60%. The court also refused spousal maintenance. It gave spousal maintenance for a very short period of time, I think for a couple of months or until the summer, until the family home gets sold, and then effectively said that she was employable and she can go and get a job.
Wow.
And that the children were such of an age that it wouldn't prevent her from working.
Is that not very unusual? Because she hadn't been working. She had stayed at home to support, obviously, allow him to go about his business and this kind of thing. And would they look at her qualifications, for example, before they'd make a decision?
She had been in a pensionable job. The case, when you read the judgment's actually available online for anybody who wants to read it on the courts.ie website. All judgments are published. All written judgments are up there. You search under the judge's name, Judge Jackson. The case is in initials because family law cases are private, so it's anonymous. Even where the lands are, where the business, you wouldn't know where this case was from reading it. Okay. Is it unusual? I think there's more and more. There's the job market at the moment. There's prospects out there, and the court felt she was in her 50s. She did have interests. She had interests in the equine industry, so she was employable. She wouldn't generate the same income as the husband was going to generate, but she also had a house with a rental that could be rented, and she would have a rental income out of that.
Now, I know the children were grown up, but was there any question of the children in the judgment?
No, because actually at the start of the judgment, the court commended both parties for reaching a solution on the children. So the court wasn't
through mediation, was it?
Yes, I presume so. They had reached an agreement on how they were going to parent the children. So that wasn't a factor for the court to determine.
Okay. Now, a lot of people talking about this. And so this is a departure of some kind, and as you say, precedent.
It's a precedent, but I suppose there are other precedents. It's not a huge departure because we do have Supreme Court decisions saying that inherited assets don't necessarily form part of the pool of assets, the pool of marital assets for division. And again, it comes down to that's probably more relevant in ample resources cases. So
what does that mean?
That's a legal term for cases where there is a huge amount of wealth, perhaps.
Yes.
If it was a case where you had your standard, your sole asset was perhaps a house worth 250,000-300,000 in Clonmel, and you may have had input from family, well, that's different. That's not an ample resources case, and the court in that case would have to look at how are the parties going to accommodate themselves. But in an ample resources cases where there are more than enough resources and more than enough assets to properly provide for parties without having to go near the I suppose the non-marital asset, well, the court will do that. It's probably of huge relevance for the farming community.
Yeah, and tell me about that, because of succession in some way, isn't it?
Well, I suppose the farming, there was huge concern when divorce came in originally amongst the farming community. I remember reading, somebody goes up the aisle with a bunch of flowers and they come down the aisle with half a farm. There was huge angst, huge fear, and there is still huge angst, huge fear. We see it on a daily basis. I thought
there was some changes around that, though, was there?
No, not necessarily. No, there is, we would still meet farmers, and I know my colleague was speaking to you about farms there recently, Rosemary. Every time we meet a farmer, they're concerned about passing the farm on and how can they protect that in the event of their son or daughter's marriage falling into difficulty, and how can that asset be protected. So I suppose this judgment does help that, does assist those farmers who may be looking at transferring farms, in that if the farm is what's generating the income, and the farm is not a marital asset.
Interesting. Would a prenup not sort that in some way?
A prenup, they haven't, while they're not prohibited. There's no guarantee that a court will take them into effect. We do them because obviously you only have one opportunity to do them, and anybody who's considering one should do it because it has to be done pre-marriage. It has to be done more than 3 months pre-marriage. But again, circumstances change, so you may do a prenup, but you would have to take into account the fact, what happens if there are children, what happens if it's a long marriage. A prenup may only have relevance for a short marriage where there are perhaps no children. It would have less relevance, let's say, if you had a 20-25 year marriage with children. So but there is only one opportunity to do them, so I certainly do urge people, but they come with a health warning. There is no guarantee that it will be regarded by the court.
I think from my conversations with John over the years, Gillian, I understand is that the circumstances around a divorce in this country is not taken into account. In other words, culpability or blame or whatever.
Absolutely. We've a no-fault divorce system, and actually that came out in this judgment
such a proper way to put it. I went all around the house to explain it, but yes.
I was wondering where you were going. And that actually comes out in this particular case as well. We've a no-fault divorce system. We do have a provision where conduct can be taken into account if it's gross and obvious.
So like domestic violence and the
yes,
like,
it has to meet a very high threshold. So in this case, for example, there was an extramarital affair. That does not constitute gross and obvious behaviour. Addiction generally doesn't either. Generally what I find, or generally what I would advise people, it needs to probably meet a criminal standard for it to, but I suppose that's not the law, but generally I find for a court to take behaviour into account, it has to meet a criminal standard.
It's very interesting indeed. So, and again, because this was a lot of money, this went to the High Court. But again, the precedence of this could apply locally.
Well, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So our lower courts, so our circuit court case, they're bound to follow the higher courts. So they're bound to follow the High Court in the judgments it sets down.
Yeah, well, as I always say to John Lynch, I'm fascinated by your work. I really am. I think it's a fascinating job. Are you aware that it's a very interesting job?
Well, I suppose it is very interesting, especially in general practice. Yeah. So I would be a general practice. So you would be dealing with matters that arise on a local basis, family law, medical negligence, personal injuries. I would have friends and colleagues who would be perhaps in Dublin in the bigger firms. They're entirely different jobs.
Yeah. It's fascinating altogether. Gillian, thanks for coming into us today. Thanks very much.
Thank
indeed.
you, Fran.
Gillian O'Mahony there from Lynch Solicitors in Clonmel. 11:17. Back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon, now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Worrying. It's just so Irish. A non-exhaustive list of worries. Being too friendly, too agreeable, too nice. We even apologise for apologising. It's a lot. That's why you may be interested in driving something less worrisome, like a new Renault with a 5-year warranty, full of style and innovation that makes you say, ooh la la. From 0% APR or a trade-in bonus of up to €2,500. Rethink Renault. Finance is made under a hire purchase MFS. T's and C's applies, subject to lending criteria. Deposit required. Offers are limited. See Renault.ie.
Take a test drive at Cleary Motors Thurles. Call 0504 21281 or visit clearymotors.ie.
Looking for a career that truly makes a difference? Avista Disability Services is hosting a recruitment open day on Wednesday, March 4th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Maltings building in Rosscray. We're recruiting care staff, social care workers and registered nurses to support people with disabilities across your community in North Tipperary and Offaly. Enjoy same-day screening and interviews with a values-led supportive employer. Just bring your CV, driving licence, ID and relevant qualifications. Drop in, meet the team and take the next step in a meaningful career. That's Avista Recruitment Day, March 4th, Rosscray. Find us at avista.ie or on social media.
If your dog chases after sheep, it's not your dog's fault. If your dog attacks a flock, savaging sheep and lambs, it's not your dog's fault. So wherever you bring them, keep them under control at all times. Because whatever they do, it's not your dog's fault. It's yours.
Your dog is your responsibility. Visit gov.ie/dogs to find out more. A message from the Government of Ireland.
Short flight, big possibilities. Fly Shannon to Frankfurt non-stop with Discover Airlines and connect onward with ease. Twice weekly flights from Shannon to Frankfurt with Discover Airlines. Starting Saturdays from April 25th and Thursdays from July 2nd. Go Discover at www.discover-airlines.com. Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon, it's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Welcome back to Tipp Today. Fascinating question in for Gillian or for John, our solicitors. And what I'll do is I'll store that up and I'll hang on to it for them. But it's a very interesting one from one of our listeners. Thank you for that. Preparations are in full swing in St. George's Arts and Heritage Centre, Mitchelstown, ahead of their fantastic wedding showcase on the 1st of March. And with a great friend of the show, indeed, Clonmel, local Sue-Ann O'Donnell, the celebrant by your side, is said to be the special guest on the day. I'm joined now by one of the directors of St. George's Arts and Heritage Centre in Mitchelstown. Anne Morrison is with me. Good morning to you, Anne.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you so much for coming on with us today. Will you tell us about the Heritage Centre? Because it's a rather special one, isn't it?
It's very special, actually. It is the old Church of Ireland building here in town, and we took it on in 2019. Not great timing to start an event centre, but we ploughed on. We have had hundreds and hundreds of events here, and then we've started doing weddings way back at the start. One of our very first, actually, was, bless us, in COVID time. There was the celebrant, the couple, 2 witnesses and 2 directors in the building.
Wow.
It was a really peculiarly special occasion, actually. They got dispensation to have this.
Yes.
And since then, we've had weddings of up to 200 guests. We've had pom-poms and flowers everywhere. It is a unique venue by all accounts, really.
Yeah, and I know a lot of your weddings are secular, but because I would imagine, and because of the atmosphere of St. George's, it makes it, I don't know, rather special, I suppose.
It does.
Yeah.
You have that complete look that you imagine in your head, if this is the kind of thing you like. But by our covenant with the Church of Ireland, we are not allowed to have religious services here. So it's all civil ceremonies, and we've had a few naming ceremonies as well, taking over from baptisms, I suppose. We're set up as a charity, so we do what we need to do to keep this building ticking over. Otherwise, it would have gone to rack and ruin. So, where by no means it's not a modern building, we do have a fantastic heating system now.
Yeah.
We waited so many long and cold winters for that, but it's in now, and it's such a joy. Nobody needs to bring cushions. We have cushions on the seats.
So it's all very
every year
comfortable.
We go from strength to strength. This year we've started a cinema club with a bunch of people from town, and that's gone down a storm as well.
I can well imagine. I know you have a lovely gig coming up with Francis Black in a few weeks' time.
Francis Black was here Saturday. I'm afraid you missed it.
Was it? Oh, was it on Saturday? I see. Yeah, and a packed house, I guess, was it?
And on to the next one. Yes.
Yeah, and there's a Tipperary element, I know, in some of what you're doing there over the next while.
Yes. Well, being Mitchelstown, we are really so central to Munster. We have all of southwest Limerick, all of South Tipperary. Waterford is within reach. We had a couple there. The last wedding, they had the reception down in Dungarvan Hotel. So they travel. We really are so central, all of Cork, and then all those surrounding counties. Sure, they border the north of the town anyway.
Of course they do, indeed. Yeah,
and we have the one we're sharing with this operation with now is Browne, and she's just outside the town there, still in Cork, mind you, but offering fantastic accommodation for that.
Isn't that great? So tell me what's happening on March 1st then. It's a showcase, isn't it?
So March 1st, this is our first wedding fair, so we're all really quite excited about the whole thing. We have people coming who will provide us with music and who can, of course, be booked. We have Hilda McMahon from Ballyporeen.
Oh, I know Hilda well, yeah. Excellent photographer too, yeah.
Wedding cakes from Pauline, gifts from local makers, a range of different celebrants. Everybody has their own liking. So they will be split between ourselves here in St. George's and out at Barnahown. Restaurants in the town which will be open to discuss catering for that. And you can then have an open house viewing of Barnahown, and another place is Ballinwillen House. It's been running a long, long time in accommodation and very well known.
That's very good. And I presume everybody is welcome along.
Everybody is welcome along.
Yeah.
For interest's sake, if you can't come yourself, send your mom, your aunt, your granddad. It doesn't matter. We have always had it as an open door policy here. It took us a while, but we have managed to get staff now to keep the doors open 5 days a week. And we have an open sign on the gate, and you just come and bang on the door and come in, say hello, have a look at the place. The place needs football. Without people coming to see this and support us, we're just, we're going nowhere.
But it's great to know that you're available as a music venue as well, because that's so important, you know.
It is. The music that has come here is tremendous.
Yeah.
We actually had a crowd in on Sunday doing a music video. Wasted Space, they're a group from Cork. And they had their fog machines and all sorts going. And excuse me, the venue is open to so many uses. So many uses. And we're always exploring new things. We've gotten a room done upstairs, which provides just another little aspect of space that we can offer to people. And we're always here. The directors are here to ask questions and that, but we're all volunteers, so.
Yeah, well done. It sounds. I can't wait to drop in and have a look at the venue. Yeah, I'm looking forward to dropping by because I'd love to see what it's like. I hear great things about it. So March 1st, it's the afternoon of March 1st. What day of the week is that?
It's Sunday.
Sunday.
This Sunday.
Okay, so Sunday, March the 1st, all right, between 2 and 5 p.m.
2 to 5. Where better to go than a lovely old building between 2 and 5.
Right, and there will be a great welcome, I would imagine. And pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much, and much success to you all there. Thank you, and good morning to you.
Thank you for the airtime.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Fran.
And that's Anne Morrison there, one of the centre's directors there at St. George's Arts and Heritage Centre in Mitchelstown. Hi, Fran. I totally agree with Councillor Jim Ryan about Thurles and the GAA connection being utilised. I would like to add that I believe the GAA lost one of the gems of the organisation by not purchasing the site in Burr in County Offaly of the first All-Ireland hurling final. There you go, it's in from one of our listeners. All right, then let us move on, says he, losing notes and stuff. There will be no reductions of special needs assistance for next school year, according to the Minister for Education, Hildegard Naughton, and Minister of State for Special Education, Michael Moynihan. They've confirmed this, but an extra €19 million is to be provided to fund special needs assistance following a meeting of the government party leaders at several ministers last night. Now, the announcement followed an outcry last week over plans to cut the number of SNAs in 194 schools following reviews of their allocations. Well, Mark Darmody, very frequent contributor to the show, joins me now. Mark, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran, and good morning to your listeners.
Can you get your head around the initial announcement, Mark, to cut the number of SNAs when the facts are that we need more SNAs than ever in our schools?
Yeah, look, first of all, Cara said to say good morning to you, and she said, Dad, make sure to say hello to my bestie in the media. So she said to say hi.
Well, hello back to her.
I suppose, like everybody, we're parents who rely on the SNAs within the schools. They've now become an essential part of our boys' education and their well-being and their caring. So like every parent out there, if hypothetically the SNA is taken away, you're in big trouble. I suppose, like all parents, I'm flabbergasted. And I think the starting point has to be what the Taoiseach Simon Harris said last week, where his own words, he described it as a botched announcement, a really bad situation that has caused upset, anger and hurt. So, like, that's your starting point. His own words kind of say what happened here. Then we had the Minister, Hildegard Naughton, come out this morning, thankfully, not just pausing it, but what she said this morning is actually flabbergasting too, where she said that the SNA redeployment scheme, that they need to finalise it. Then the SNA workforce development plan, that needs to be also finished. And then the changes to this 2014 circular, which is how the SNAs do their jobs, that they need to basically finalise those things, then make announcements. And you're there just sitting there thinking, why did you not do that first?
It beggars belief, doesn't it?
Engage with everyone first before you would make any announcement. You're just left without playing the man or the woman and just playing the ball just as an issue. You're just simply flabbergasted that this has happened and that they didn't flag that this would blow up in their faces. You're just flabbergasted.
What does that say to you, Mark, that they didn't? I mean, even on just a realpolitik basis, I mean, surely somebody must have known along the way this was going to cause consternation around the country.
Yeah, I suppose, and again, I suppose I can offer a little insight into that, because I suppose we're at the front face through Cllr's campaign. So you're talking about a government here, and again, this is not playing the man or the woman. I'm just playing the issue here.
Sure.
They break the law systematically in relation to assessment needs, and there is no repercussion for that. So in my humble opinion, an incredible arrogance exists at government level in relation to disability. So if they're getting away with breaking a law, they would just say, well, sure, redeploying SNAs or cutting a few schools, that's not going to blow up in our faces. And so there would be that type of arrogance that if you're getting away with something big, then, if you see something as a smaller issue, then, it doesn't really matter, does it? So they're almost in shock that this has blown up in their faces. And, the word I'm going to keep using is, just as a citizen, you're just flabbergasted that they just didn't see this coming, because the SNAs are in every village, they're in every town. They're part of our community. They do such an incredible work. By the way, as do teachers, as do especially special ed teachers. Across the board, we're very, what word would I use? As a society, we're very protective of our schools. And this was seen as an attack on the most vulnerable.
Can I put it to you, Mark, though, in terms of what the initial idea was of the review, I think was to ensure that SNA resources were allocated in some sort of an effective way and a fair way across the schools, and it meant to match support to documented care needs and the like. Do you think the intention was good?
Yeah, look, as I say, you and I know each other a number of years. We never, and I've actually used the phrase twice, play the ball, not the man or the woman. So if you look at the issue, I've no doubt, like the likes of Michael Moynihan, he has a child with actually quite severe needs. So to say that he doesn't care or that he's against disabled people, look, it's just not a road to go down, in my opinion. But as an issue, they may have had intentions, to do right on some level, but it's the way that they've gone about it. No matter what they've done now, they're going to be labelled as, in some way, not caring about the disability community or not giving a proper thought, or that it's.
And Mark, the National Council for Special Education as well, are they tainted by this in some sort of fashion, do you think?
They are. Oh no, absolutely. But Fran, the one thing that actually fascinated me was that there's a gentleman called John Carney who's in charge like of them. You'd actually be shocked as to how few TDs have even met him. That it's like that they only deal with the ministers. And the NCSE reminds me of Irish Water. They're like a ghost organisation. Yeah. We know that they're there, but no one seems to know who the people are who's leading it or where the policy decisions seem to come from. So they're a little bit like Irish Water, like they're kind of like almost like a faceless organisation. So
well, you see, I was going to ask you about that. What is your understanding of the National Council for Special Education? I mean, is it a case that the department just farms off stuff to this body? Is it?
I wouldn't like to come across now this morning as kind of almost would say blaming the NCSE because they act.
No, but I just want to understand who are. Well, that's what I'm trying to get to. You say they act on instruction. Is that it?
They do.
Right.
They do, absolutely. Like, I mean, they were told to carry out this review.
Very good. So the government cannot wash their hands of this, Mark.
Pardon, sorry?
The government can't wash their hands of this because the NCSE works under instruction.
This is a pure political... now, were the government aware that they were going to announce it in the way that they did? I suppose we'll never know exactly what goes on behind the scenes, but like the bottom line is it's the ministers have to answer for this and the government has to answer. And they're literally out of touch with what's going on in the street. I mean, like the idea that you'd send out 200 emails to schools saying you are being cut, no personal, engagement at all. And now we know from the minister this morning that they didn't have any of these things done. None of the plans were finalised or anything, and they're now going to go about doing that. So the idea that someone was authorised to cut SNAs without the homework being done. And the crazy thing, Fran, is that this review has been going on for a number of years in theory. I mean, these things should have been done first.
Now they're saying they're saying they're not cutting. There was a redeployment scheme in place. Do you accept that, Mark? Or
100% accept that. And in theory, it might make sense. Having said that, though, like you look at the practicalities. If you had someone living in Ardfinnan here, like most of the SNAs would live in the village as well, and then like what's the proposal that now they're going to be in Clonmel or Carrick-on-Suir? Like it's not as simple as just saying we're going to implement a scheme. Like I don't think that there's any thought. Well, look, we know that the scheme hasn't been finalised, so there wasn't any thought put into it, and that's actually a fact. So there hasn't been engagement with Youth Forza on RT's Morning Ireland this morning, basically saying that they just kicked it down the road for 12 months. So be under no illusions, though, here. The government has lost the room on this issue. So the tail is wagging the dog now, the unions and the opposition. The government is in trouble on this even in 12 months because they're not going to be able to go back and just implement what they want to do. So they're going to have to come up with a new idea.
And have you any idea, Mark, because I can't seem to find it, what criteria the NCSE used to make their report and to decide on this?
Yeah, if you were to get any principal on now this any time like about this, you'll get differing answers here. And this is the whole thing, is that there has been kind of like a fundamental shift as to what's required within the school. So they're using old criteria. And that's where, no matter what happens here, Fran, there is a fundamental objection as to how the NCSE is assessing children. Like, it's now, as we go on year after year, more complex issues are showing up with kids. And they're now using very limited criteria, and that's where the cuts then are like coming from within the schools. Like that, they're now saying different things that we don't do various, that SNAs shouldn't be doing the following, but that's causing serious issues now within schools and the cuts then, and so parents are saying that they shouldn't be cut. Look, the whole thing is a mess.
And just finally, Mark, what does it say to you just about the notion of SNAs in schools as opposed to special classes? And does this indicate that there's a move in thinking from the department in some way?
there is, and I suppose it's slightly tied to Cllr's campaign, like that she and others have put them under horrific pressure, would say, like, not to change the 6-month timeline for the AON and stuff like that. But the knock-on effect of that is that they're trying to save resources and other things elsewhere. And there appears to be a type of unofficial policy change with special education where, like at one stage, they were trying to limit children going into the special schools. Now the assessments is another issue where they're saying that you don't need an assessment to get into a special class or a special school. So, like, they seem to be changing policy on a whim, which is very worrying, that there seems to be nobody at the wheel here who seems to know what they're actually doing. And again, a lot of that does come down to, like, we have a new minister in charge, and I know that happens, but it's someone's trying to come up to speed, to be fair to Minister Naughton. But, like, it's, you know, I mean, is she just trying to come up to speed, or does she really understand her brief? And I think we've seen over the last week or two, they don't really understand the brief when you lose the room so quickly on such a simple issue.
Mark, pleasure, and my best to Cara and to your family. And thanks very much for coming on with us, Mark. Thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you. Good morning to you. That's Mark Darmody speaking to us there. How do you feel about that? 1800 938 007.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938-007.
Now, James recently took to Facebook to share how he decided to give up using Facebook for Lent, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, James.
Good morning, Fran. How are you today?
I'm well indeed. Great to talk to you. Were you a serious user of Facebook? I mean, was it soaking up lots of your time? Is that why you made this decision, James?
No, I do it every year.
Do you?
From a couple of years, apart from a couple of years when I was doing a fundraiser where you had to post it was a steps challenge. You had to post up that every day, you know, for try and get donations in. But I haven't done that this year, so I'm back to just giving up. To be honest, Fran, I had kind of dipped in and out of Facebook there in the last year or so. I checked first thing in the morning to see if there was any notification, and then just, as I said, log in and out.
Right, but you wouldn't spend hours on it or something like that. You wouldn't be, yeah. And you use other platforms as well, James?
I was on Instagram. I've logged out of Instagram as well.
Yeah. And
I haven't used YouTube or anything like that now since then.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have to admit, I have to hold my hands up at this point. I say I'm absolutely addicted to social media. I mean, the amount of time I spend on it. Now, I make the excuse that, because of the job I do, I have to keep with stuff like that. But to be honest with you, most of it is doom scrolling. Do you miss it badly, James?
Not at all, not one bit. Not one bit. And I mean, I use WhatsApp, so I mean, if I need to contact somebody, we can contact each other on that, so... No, there's no problem there. No, I don't miss it one bit at all.
Yeah, other people, for example, do you know a lot of people who you might judge as being addicted to social media?
Oh, God bless us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I contact every day with my wife's nephews and nieces, and my God almighty, on social media, I call it, you could have 3 or 4 of them in the room, and they're all on the screens, and no conversation or nothing.
Yeah. Why do you think you didn't get hooked in the same way as we are hooked, do you think?
Maybe because I'm over 60. No, I used to get involved before, and especially when it come to the banter about hurling and things like that. I said, "Oh, geez, I better give that up."
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but you are seeing people around you though who are obviously hooked.
Absolutely hooked in it, and I was giving a friend of mine a lift into work this morning, and she was panicking because she thought she had to forget her phone. Oh my God, I'm not forgetting my phone. What do I do?
Yeah, I know exactly how she'd feel. I mean, I would be panicking, absolutely panicking. Whenever I think I've even mislaid it, I'm going through the roof, you know.
Yeah, no. It's be surprised you should lock it away for a while.
Do you know, I think I'm going to take you up on that, because I'm going to try and give it up for a couple of days or something and see how I get on.
Yeah, there's your challenge.
But is it St. Augustine? But I won't start. I won't start this week. I'll leave it till next week, and I'll see what happens at that point.
You're a mañana, are you? Mañana person.
Something
Tomorrow,
like
tomorrow.
procrastination. Is that the word?
That's it. Yeah.
All right. Well, fair play to you, James. Do you give up anything else for Lent, by the way?
I don't. I tell you, I give up sugar and sweets one year. And my wife and my daughter, after weeks, said, "Jesus, will you please go back? You're like an antichrist." So no, what I do is I try to go to mass every day for Lent.
Do you? Very good.
I do, yeah.
So your faith is very important to you, James.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of?
You need to have faith when you're a Tipperary fan. and I'm a Spurs football fan as well. So.
Oh Lord! Oh, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
You definitely want to go to mass every day where that is. What do you make about the row that's going on at the moment about Fionn Sheehan, the journalist and broadcaster, having the ashes on his forehead on television, and a lot of people offended by that in some way? I'm not sure if you're across that. What do you make of that?
He's probably entitled to. Each person to their own. I think, you know.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that story. Were people offended because he was wearing the ashes?
They were offended because he was blatantly having the ashes on his forehead. In other words, I suppose, which is a statement. He's a person of faith. He's obviously Catholic as well. And they were offended at the notion he would go on national TV.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
That's what they have remote controls for, isn't it?
I suppose it's one way of looking at it. Well done, James, and I'll take you up on that maybe next week or the week after. I'll see what happens.
Yes.
Thanks, James.
It could be Easter by that time.
Look after yourself, James. Thanks very much.
And you, friend. Always nice
Thank
talking
you.
to you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye to you now. That's James Moore there, and James giving up Facebook for Lent. Did you give up anything for Lent, Leanne?
No, I'm trying to be better on the sweet things. I am. I'm doing my best.
What does that mean now?
I'm trying to be more thoughtful about what I eat. So I'm very...
So you're still going to eat, but you're going to be thoughtful of it.
Yeah, I'm very bad for snacking.
Are you?
And not eating full meals. So eating little bits on the go.
Oh,
so what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks is 3 full meals. Packing, when I'm coming to work, I pack my breakfast, my lunch, and then I go home and I have a proper dinner.
I'm going to out you now, you know. Because, what about the guys who are knocking at the door every lunchtime with the takeaways?
But you haven't seen them in a few weeks now.
I haven't seen them in a while, come to think of it. Yeah, so this is a new you, is it?
Yeah.
But this is not related to Lent.
I use it as an opportunity to better myself in some way.
Yeah.
Is the way I like to think of it. Not necessarily giving up something, but being mindful of something. So making my own life better and kind of productively thinking about that.
That's very interesting indeed. What do you make of what's going on with Fionn Sheehan, who is a regular contributor to some guy, a guy you talk to quite often? What are you making of that?
As a person of faith, I find it absolutely astounding.
Do you?
Yeah, because I think everyone shows their faith in their own way, no matter what the religion. And if it was another religion, would people have jumped on it so quickly?
Well, that's the point, isn't it? And, answer your own question.
I don't think so. And I think a lot of the time, even within our own country, we're so respectful of others, but we forget to be respectful of ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, I wear a cross around my neck every day, and I would just be stunned if someone said to me, "Oh, you wearing that on camera is offensive." Because it's not like he was sitting there promoting a certain faith.
No.
It was just a mark of his faith, and it was a silent mark.
Yeah. It was Ash Wednesday, so he had obviously been to a ceremony.
And traditionally in Ireland, everyone would have had them on their forehead. And the thing is as well, a lot of people wants to get it on. You don't remove it until it removes itself.
Is that part of the...
Yeah, a lot of people believe that they leave it on until it goes away itself, that it would be disrespectful to rub off the cross. So I think it was a whole lot over nothing.
Yeah, but there was quite an outpouring and, a lot of critique about
I wonder though, are we gone so far in society that we find it surprising now to see someone proud maybe of their faith, that nowadays people are kind of weary and people have moved away from the church. So obviously maybe others would have grown up in a time where that would have been completely normal. But now for us it's a bit more shocking.
That's interesting. I'm sure something we'll be teasing out even more over the coming days. Tell me about the archives, because you've been in there again in that cobweb laden place, the archives, and what have you come up with this time?
I think this just rings the perfect bell for today, because obviously this morning with Cllr Jim Ryan we were chatting about the GAA and Tipperary and the impact and how proud we should be.
Yeah.
So I found this clip from 1971 and it's the All-Ireland semi-final and it's in St Brendan's Park in Birr, and Tipp actually were successful. They beat Galway, so it was 326 to 6 and 8 points. It was Liam Campbell commentating, and it was on the Weekend Sport on the 15th of August 1971.
1971. All right, let us transport ourselves back there.
Well, this is Pádraig Fahey. Surely he'll try for the goal from this 21 yards free with just 2.5 minutes gone in the second half. For Galway tries for it. It's blocked out and cleared out, but it goes back to Pádraig Fahey again from Tygo O'Connor's clearance. Pádraig taking another shot for Galway, and this time he's happy with his point. Pádraig Fahey then, after 2.5 minutes in the second half, reducing the margin, but it's a big margin still, 3-14 to 3-5. Still 9 points in the difference, 3 clear goals. Tipp leading, and Peter O'Sullivan ready to puck out again. John Connolly having a good game for Galway, maybe having too much to do though. Long one down into the right corner. PJ Qualter out after it from the full forward position. John Kelly is with him, but it's a 21 yards free in for Galway. 21 yards free in for Galway. Not a very easy angle. Way out to the right of the posts, and Pádraig Fahey going to take it. Hardly try for the goal from here. Then again, maybe he will. There's only 3 Tipp men between the posts. Takes a short one to Paddy Mitchell. Paddy now at the shot, and it's gone into the net. A goal from Paddy. Well, that'll put a bit more interest into it. A good goal there for the Galway men. Well worked goal. 45 to Paddy Mitchell and to the back of the net. That was the order of events. 3-14 Tipp and 4-5 for Galway. And John Connolly collecting it 70 yards out from the Tipp goal. A good pass into Bernie O'Connor. A shot from Bernie and a point from Bernie. And now Galway really have to keep going. In the next few minutes they'll just have to keep going, let nothing pass. But there's a Tipp man who has other ideas. PJ Ryan. Good shot from PJ. Not a long one though, but a good testing one. And Jack Ryan trying to get his first puck of the ball there for Tipp, not succeeding. John Flanagan after it, but the goalkeeper watching it going out over the end line and wide. And Sean Kelly to puck out for Galway. Long one from Sean. And it runs on towards Pádraig Fahey. Whistle is gone though, and it's a free in anyway for Galway. Pádraig feels maybe he should have been let go on, but the referee deciding it was fairer to give him the free, and 50 yards out from the Tipp post. It's a free for Galway. John Connolly to take it. And every puck of the ball that a Galway man takes from now on is going to count, or it'll have to count. There's one from John, which seems to be going over the bar and has gone over the bar. 11 minutes gone in this second half, 29 to play, and Galway bringing down that margin, though it still is fairly big, not as intimidating as it was. 3-14 for Tipp, 4-7 for Galway. That's 23 to 19, 4 points in the difference, and Galway coming again. Mitchell, and this is a real genuine substitution. Paddy is limping off the field as Mick Keating takes this free for Tipp and sends it over the bar once more. And defending then in the game, replacing Paddy Mitchell, who is one of the real Galway live wires, but he got a knock. I think it's on the knee or on the ankle. He's looking at it there as he sits on the sideline. But whatever it was, anyway, he hasn't been able to continue. With 23 minutes gone, 17 minutes to go to the full-time whistle. It's Tipperary 320. That's 29 points. To Galway's 5-8. That's 23. 6 points in the difference again, or 2 goals if the Galway men prefer to look at it that way. And the way they've been taking goals and they're at least expected to, that's probably the way they will be looking at it. From the puck out, it's Jack Ryan. Jack making his way in, 30 yards out for Tipp. A high kind of a lobbing shot going out towards the left. It's blocked out by the goalkeeper, advancing quickly, and Tommy Bowen beaten to it there, and the ball's sent over the bar by Mick Keating. This man, Keating, is just about everywhere. All of a sudden, again, so quiet in the earlier stages of the second half when Galway were doing well. Then the ball started running his way once more, and Mick is sending them over the bar from nearly every angle. On down towards Noel O'Dwyer, just inside the Galway half now. Noel making his way in. Loses a stick, palms the ball onto John Flanagan. Out to the right of the post, about 21 yards out. Takes a shot, and that's another point for Tipp. Quite a few people here now beginning to feel that maybe Galway have indeed shot their bolt and that the Tipperary men are going to go on to the All-Ireland final against Kilkenny. And we're waiting for this 70 by Len Gaynor for Tipp. Dropping on the edge of the square, Roger Ryan pulling on it first time. John Flanagan's in there, but the fullback John Fall gets it and clears it away for Galway out about 50 yards from his own post to Colm Muldoon. Colm runs into a tackle, loses the ball. Robbed there by Mick Roach, way up helping his attack now, and Mick, a left-handed one going down into the right corner, is cleared out a bit by Mick Fahey, first timing it, but Tipp attacking again to Francis Loughnane. Francis took his eye off the ball as it came to him, but he's got it again now, and from the right he takes a shot, then it's another point for Tipperary.
Oh, it's great to hear the names there, Francis Loughnane and Len Gaynor and all of that. You were just remarking off air there, the pace of the commentating is really slow, isn't it, by comparison to nowadays?
Slow and relaxed and easy going, but it was a completely different game.
Yeah.
This was only a couple of minutes of the full-length game, but there was very little that idea if someone fell over. It was very hard to get a free, and it was very hard to get carded.
So it was real free-flowing as well. The final score there was, 3-26 to 6-8, was it?
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, in a couple of decades, will we be playing clips of Paul Carroll from 2025?
I would imagine so, indeed. And why not? Leanne, thanks very much indeed for that. And thanks for the memories as well. That's it for me. Leanne produced. Stephen has the time tunnel on the lunchtime show, and we speak to you from Nina tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that from Nina.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.